coach in the NFL. I don't think he was.
Well, you'd be wrong. So he was. I mean,
No,
he was.
I don't think he qualified as a head coach. I think he was pretty bad at his job. So Denny's.
Well, yeah, but you're still a radio host.
Okay. Yes, but still bad at my job.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I've got a Wednesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. We head up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you talking a lot of football, mixing a little baseball along the way as we will hang out with Jeff Montgomery coming up an hour from now. Bally Sports, Royals Hall of Famer. We will talk with him about the Kansas City Royals, what's going on right now. Same old, same old. New day, same result. Picture is painted. It's a matter of how you get there. We know the end result picture. We just get to watch Bob Ross paint those bubbling little brooks and those happy little mistakes, those flowing little rivers. But we know it's going to be a beautiful picture of nature. His canvas will. And we know the Royals, it's going to be a hey, as long as you lose fast. And they didn't play their first 3-hour game last night. And that's what happens when there's a 16-pitch at bat and an injury timeout, and then the base hit comes from a guy who throws his bat at the ball. And it just flutters into right field. Because that's the difference between the Orioles right now and the Royals right now, in that the Royals have 2 men on and an opportunity to change the complexion of the game with Michael Garcia up there, and he hits a ball 104 miles an hour. And Ryan Mountcastle makes a leaping stab and catches it for the 3rd out. And the Orioles get a rally going after a 16-pitch at bat in which the base hit came from flailing and tossing the bat at the ball. That's a dying quail, a little Texas leaguer into right field. 104 miles an hour or 72.
All you Royals fans do is complain.
That's not a complaint.
They gave you one great inning last night and then 3 totally fine ones altogether. And what more could you want?
And Salvi gave us a couple of blasts,
How many dongs do you need to see in one game before you stop complaining about it?
More than 4.
Good to know.
Typically more than 4 in one night, and I'm happy. Last night was 4. Sort of just expected level. Okay. I go into a night, I expect to see about 4.
You have an EDL, an expected dong level of 4 on an average basis. You like to hit the over when you can.
Right. There was at least 1 expected every time when Moose was out there.
You need 1 dong above expected, at least.
1 DE.
Analytics have finally found their home in baseball.
So that's just simply 1D. All right, so we'll talk with Jeff Montgomery about how many dongs he expected to see last night.
I will Venmo you $10 to ask it that way exactly.
I don't think we will do that.
Okay.
That's doubtful that we will talk about that.
Be?
But we will talk to him about, one of the things that came from last night's game, and that is the injury to Salvi, the bruised knuckle. He is listed as day-to-day. Thankfully, the results of the X-ray came back negative. But it's now been multiple times. More than a couple of times he's been hit by a backswing with his glove, which I don't ever remember that happening. Outside of every once in a while, you'll see a catcher get hit in the helmet. And when they swing and hits the back of the helmet, and you're like, oh, oops, sorry. I don't know that I remember Salvi getting hit in his glove hand by a backswing. And it's happened at least 3 times this year. And I was concerned that it was broken. He typically doesn't leave a game. And it looked like it was his choice. I'm like, no, he started walking off on his own. It didn't look like, hey, let's go check it. It was no. He started walking off like, oh, that's not good. That's not good. And, so I do want to talk to Monty about how you marry they want the catchers to set up closer to the plate so they can frame the pitches. It's one of the things we talked about in the offseason, the new strategy by the pitching staff or the pitching coaches, the new strategy by the new regime of helping the pitchers get some more strikes. And we've talked about the improvement of the catchers in being able to frame and stealing strikes and the defensive war. Is it worth those particular strikes with the chance of having Salvi injured because he has a backswing. Now, those players who have got him with the backswing typically are guys that have a longer backswing. That's maybe something where Salvi's got to be aware of, but man, there's so much on your plate at that time that it's like, oh yeah, by the way, as I reach to go and frame this one, if my glove goes a little bit high and inside to him, and Santander's a guy that has that longer reach, my glove, my knuckle might get hit. And you got to think about that reactionary while you're going to try to catch the pitch. I don't know if that one specifically was you're setting up too close to the plate, or if it was unfortunate that just the spot where his glove had to go and the backswing. I think it has more to do with the former because I had never seen it before. Maybe it's happened, but I just don't remember seeing it.
It's also just a special kind of, special, that happens 3 hours after the Royals say MJ Melendez moving to the outfield exclusively for the foreseeable future.
Depending on Salvi's health.
And then, and now all of a sudden you're wondering again. That was a move for MJ Melendez's sake. I mean, that was the logic, right?
It was absolutely, it's something I'm going to talk to Monty about and ask him and tell him that, baseball has a way of ruining your plans.
Seriously.
It took 8 innings for baseball to go, hey, Q, what was it you said earlier? Remember that? Remember the MJ Melendez, take something off your plate, just relax, go play right field. Hopefully that'll help you out at the plate. Remember when Alex Gordon finally got out of the dirt and went to left field where he was so much more comfortable than he was at third? The bat came around, but you knew he was confident in his game overall because he knew he was one of, if not the best left fielders in baseball. And I think you can go to the plate knowing that I've already done for this team. I've already made a difference in a game for this team because of how well I play that position. When you are struggling in the field and learning a position and you feel like you're letting the team down, then you go up to the plate and feel like I've got to come through here because it's the only impact I can make on this game. Because I'm already a net negative by that ball falling and I probably should have got there. And then I misread that ball and it went over my head. I should have got there. I got to come through here, up, swing and a miss. Now I'm really down in the dumps. So some of that had to do with Alex Gordon's struggles, is that it was the field and the plate that wasn't performing the way that is his expected level. MJ Melendez has an expected level of how he can swing the bat. Catching had been an issue, and he's learned right field. And we've talked about that. We've pointed out that we didn't want his struggles at the plate to overshadow his improvement in right field. He's clearly put in a lot of work in right field. And if you're telling him you're learning right field while also being a backup catcher, so you've got to still continue to catch the entire staff. You got to know what they throw, what the shape of the pitches are, so you can catch it, so you can scoop it, so you can be ready. The defensive positions, who's going to run. You're calling the plays on, your knee in pressing buttons. Oh, and by the way, you also spent 2 hours before the game learning right field. And, oh, hey, by the way, go take your 4 at-bats tonight. And you're batting in the first inning, your first, second, or third. That's a lot for someone who is playing in still less than 162 games in his career. He still doesn't have a full year in baseball. So that's a lot to handle for somebody like that. It's not an excuse, but it is just reality. He's doing that at the big league level when there's a third deck. And that third deck changes a lot for players, okay? We talk about 4A players. Why is it you can succeed when there's only 2 decks at the stadium? The third deck means a lot because now there's exploding sliders, there's fastballs that skip when they get to home plate. There's a lot of different things. And the fans are there, they're booing, they're watching, they're tweeting. You're down at AAA, you're not doing so well. They move on and look at somebody else, a prospect. You're down in AAA, you're doing well. Oh, you're the toast of the town. You get up to the big leagues, you're not doing so well. Oh, they're paying attention to you. They're not looking at somebody else. You are the issue. You're not just one of 10 prospects that could come up and play well. And if you're not, let's move on to the next. Who is playing well? And if you're not playing well down in the minors, it's not your fault. It's the organization's fault. You come up to the big leagues and struggle, it's you. You're the issue. That third deck means a lot. And he's learning a position, and they say it's appropriate that Quatraro says he's going to be the right fielder for the foreseeable future. We have taken catcher off his plate. Freddie Fermin is going to be the backup catcher, depending on Salvi's health.
These are the two things. I think one, in terms of those expectations, you go from being the hope in AAA to being the problem at the major league level.
Yeah.
That is a huge difference. It's the backup quarterback phenomenon. It's maybe you're the thing that can fix this, that can turn our bad juju around, that can get us on the right track. And now it's, oh man, I mean, MJ Melendez isn't even the guy. And I just wanted to go ahead and give you the timestamp. Annie Rogers tweets, 4:07 p.m. yesterday. I thought this would be a big part of our conversation today. 4:07 p.m. Quachero notes that this plan could change based on the health of Salvador Perez and or Freddie Fermin, but for now, Melendez will be in the outfield. Salvi leave that game about 5 hours after that tweet.
Well, let's look at it, because we would have the let's see, at 9:06, she tweeted out, Salvi is leaving the game.
3 hours and 59 minutes later.
What was the timestamp?
4:07.
Less than 4 hours later.
Just under the wire of
Dang
4
it.
hours later.
One more minute, Salvi. Couldn't you lay it on the ground for one more minute? I mean, it's less than that because that's when he left the game. So it's probably about 90 seconds after he got hit that he eventually walked off.
Less than a problematic amount of time to some men's wellness commercials. Salvador Perez was off the field with an injury. You wouldn't even have to call your doctor in the amount of time between pending the health to leaving the game.
From the time he announced that MJ was going to be in right field for the foreseeable future to less than a typical in the past Yankees-Red Sox game, Salvi is then hurt and leaves the game. So,
And it sounds like probably again, Salvi probably got lucky, Rose probably got lucky, all of that. Not the worst case scenario by any means, but man, it felt like a bad omen.
hopefully when he gets to the ballpark today that things calm down and maybe he misses a day or two and you tell MJ, look, you're still good.
Still, please. This is why Freddie Fermin is here.
Salvi will be back Friday.
Yes.
Freddie's going to be in the lineup. You might have to throw on the equipment if something happens to Freddie, but you just worry about right field.
Which is still hard because that's got to be in the back of your head, right? So if something happens to Freddie, now I'm moving back there again. Like I really think, based on the conversation we were having with Les yesterday, and you guys kind of going back and forth on where should MJ Melendez be right now, not positionally, but what level of baseball. I really thought the logic as it was coming out after the show yesterday, but before the game. You know what? Simplifying things for MJ feels like a little bit of a middle ground between we're not sending you to Omaha, but we are taking some of that stuff off your plate. To your point, like we're going to try to make life a little bit easier on you mentally, so you know where you're playing and you know you're preparing to be a hitter and you can live in right field and stay stable out there. I really think when you take into account all the things that a catcher has to be aware of, I really think that makes some sense. Now I really do hope they stick with it. I don't care if Freddie Fermin goes 0 for his next 15. I would like to see them buy into this line of logic, and I tend to think that they probably will.
Yeah, 2 pitches into his career as you're the right fielder, no longer the catcher, he hits a home run.
Yeah, hey.
Coincidental.
Good point. Hey, who knows?
Small sample
Who cares?
size.
I'll let it sip.
There you go. I thought you looked a little parched.
Thank you very much.
You know, I thought maybe you could wet the whistle a little bit. You know, just.
I'm still a little raspy.
There you go.
A little congested.
Raspy.
Allergy season.
Yes. The other thing that we'll be watching the next couple of days, and I'll bring this up with Monty, I know that Quatrero was talked about. Hunter Dozier is going to be playing. Others have talked about, Hunter Dozier is going to be playing. They brought up Michael Garcia. He played third base. First time he played third base in the major leagues. All 9 games last year that he played with the big leagues, he played shortstop. So playing third base. I want to know from Monty's perspective, is the plan for the next couple of weeks while Nicky Lopez is on the IL and maybe even moving forward, I don't know, is the plan that it's going to be Garcia at third base and mixing in Dozier, or is the plan for them to square peg, round hole, trying to get this car started that is not turning over? Now let's give it another try. You're flooding it. You're flooding it. Don't do it. I just need a jump. Yeah, he needs a little spark in his bat. You're right. Is it going to be Garcia with Hunter Dozier mixed in, or is it going to be Dozier with Garcia mixed in? And let me tell you, it better be the former. Shut up. It better be
Getting heckled by your watch.
No, seriously. I didn't get that. Well, let me explain then,
Let
lady.
me explain it again,
All
Siri.
right? It better be Garcia as your third baseman, and then if he needs a day off or if he needs to move to short, if Bobby Witt has a day off, and then Dozier can play third. That's what it should be. One of your top prospects in baseball to bring up and then to have him sit behind Dozier would not go over well. It wouldn't be smart. So you bring him up, you need to play him. That has to be the plan moving forward, and it's going to be problematic if tonight the lineup has Hunter Dozier at third and Garcia sitting. That's going to be an issue. Because what's the point? Stop. It's like Carlos Santana instead of Vinny Pasquantino or Nick Prado. Like, just stop, man. Just stop with the Dozier. Put Garcia at third. And it was unfortunate. You know, he was 2 for 4. He could have been 3 for 4. But, you know, things happen in Major League Baseball. But he adjusted and came up with 2 hits later on in the game. We'll talk with Monty about that. Cynthia Freeland at noon. We will talk with her, NFL Network analytics expert. Our weekly chats we have with Cynthia during the NFL season. She has been kind enough to join us today to talk about the NFL draft, what her takeaways were. She was there on the set of NFL Network post-draft coverage when the Thursday, Friday, Saturday drafts were over. She was on the set breaking it down, talking about different teams, the teams that improved the most, teams that have the best fits in certain positions. We'll talk with Cynthia Freeland about that, and then Mick Schaefer comes up at 1 o'clock, KSHB 41 sports director. We'll talk with him. So one other note as it relates to the Royals. The Orioles in town are an interesting case study, and maybe we can do this some other time because I got a lot of football I want to get into today, including an exercise in the Arif Hassan's consensus big board that we talked about yesterday that Timo Risk from Pro Football Focus put his study out of the reaches versus steals and how those players particularly perform. His conclusion is that the steals in a draft, let's say Nolan Smith this year, Nolan Smith is a steal. He should be gone in the top 15, and he's picked at 30. Those players typically perform at their expected draft position. So if it goes to form, Nolan Smith will typically perform as the 30th pick in the draft, not as a top 10 pick that you got at 30. The flip side of that is the reaches, the players that were taken a significant amount ahead of where the consensus big board is, typically did not perform to the expected draft position. They were more of a reach rather than the players being a steal. A quick explanation to that could be when a player goes and gets when a team goes and gets a player that is a quote unquote reach, that's only one data point of one team that liked that particular player. When a player slides, it is a data point of a lot of different teams that passed on that particular player that maybe the big boards were off and the teams had more of the consensus where that guy is, so he's more likely to perform at that level. It only takes one team to go up and get Alex Leatherwood.
Right.
It only takes one team to fall in love with Tim Tebow in the first round.
I thought we were going to do all Raiders. I was like, Darius Hayward Bay. I mean,
right. Yeah. It takes one team to do that.
Cleveland Farrell.
Yes. It takes one.
We're saying the AFC West right now.
Takes one team to trade up for Shamari Connor.
Yep.
Maybe that works. It takes one team to trade up for Rashee Rice. Maybe Rashee Rice would have been there in the third round. People would have said, wow, now it's a steal in the third round. Or maybe that's how teams had him viewed. We don't know. It's only one team going to get that particular player, which would make sense as to why they typically don't perform to that expected level of draft pick. So I want to do an exercise with the big board just to see, as the picks ticked off the board, who was available on the big board when the Chiefs came up at number 31? Who was available on the big board when the Chiefs picked 55? They're still trading up. I'm not going to go through all of that. No, then they would trade back, and then they'd be at 6. Would you do this? Would you do that? No, they picked 55. They picked 31, 55, and then what was Wanya? 80.
There will be a day where I will have all of this committed in memory. Today is not yet this day. 92 for Wanye.
Like, oh yeah, that's right. They only moved up 3 spots. They moved up a decent amount for Rashee Rice, but only 3 spots. So 92. So they will pick at 31, 55, and 92 in this exercise that we will go through. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. That's how the show lines up. And we'll do that on the other side just to see who would we take, where would it be, the value versus positional need, who's on the board for the consensus of how good this player is going to be. And if it's a quarterback, we're not going to go that route. But I've come up with at least 3 choices in each round that were available, that were the top spots on the consensus big board when the Chiefs picked. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll do that next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WH.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. We head up until 2 o'clock. We will talk with Jeff Montgomery at 11 o'clock, Cynthia Freeland at noon, and Mick Schaefer at 1 o'clock, KSHB 41 Sports Director. Do want to pass along information of a news story that is out there that is nationally being discussed today. So at least address it and then move on, because it doesn't really have much to do with the Chiefs or sports. But that is Jackson Mahomes was arrested and booked into jail, Jackson County Sheriff's Office this morning at 7:42 a.m. He is scheduled to be arraigned at 1:30 this afternoon, and it is in relation to the incident on February 25th when he is alleged to have shoved a waiter a couple of times, and then alleged to have forcibly kissed the
owner of that restaurant.
Owner of said restaurant. There are pictures out there of him holding her neck while kissing her. She said that was unwanted, and alleged that he forcibly kissed me out of nowhere. That was the arrest this morning. I'm assuming that the arrest did not come out of nowhere for him, since he's been working with his lawyers, and this was probably something that was agreed upon, that, we'll be there on Wednesday morning, get in there, get arraigned, released on, bond, which is he's being held on a $100,000 bond, and then figure out what the court date is, what the charges are, and what the plea will ultimately be for Jackson Mahomes. So.
Yeah, the KTTV5 story that has a little more info on some of this than the Star story we were looking at earlier. Overland Park police confirmed the incident stemmed from accusation by the owner of an Overland Park restaurant in which he allegedly assaulted her and shoved the waiter in separate incidents. Yeah. So the arrest being based off of that incident.
Yep. So that incident, two different allegations of one particular night.
From late February this year.
Yep, February 25th. And we talked about that when that came out. And I'll have the same exact thought that I did then, because just because he's arrested now doesn't mean that the story has changed in the issue that was there. Because even if, the arrest makes it, worse because it's much more public, and now it's like, okay, he's alleged to have broken the law, not just been somebody who annoys people on TikTok, right? Or as a social media influencer, or just a knucklehead. That's not knucklehead behavior. Allegedly grabbing a female from behind by the neck and then pulling her back to you and kissing her is not knucklehead behavior. It's dumb, immature, entitled, I can do this for whatever reason behavior. And I'll repeat what I said at the time. Jackson Mahomes' only job is to not be dumb and make dumb decisions. It is not an excuse that he is, 21, 22, 23 years old? I don't even know
22.
22 years old. And a lot of us made dumb mistakes as 22 years old. It's not an excuse, because a lot of us did not make dumb mistakes like this when we were 22 years old. But you do have a responsibility as Patrick Mahomes' brother, as part of the overall whether that is a view or whatever Mahomes' identity, trying to think of the right word here, of Mahomes as a star, you've got a responsibility of him being Patrick Mahomes. You're taken care of because of that, and he has his reputation and whatever his view is in the world, as people love him. He's answers questions as perfectly as you can as a quarterback. Ultra competitor, yet people feel like, what a nice guy. Ultra competitor on the field, but man, just a salt of the earth. Just a great dude off the field. And Jackson Mahomes has a responsibility to his brother to not mess that up, to not impact that. And to not impact also the issue, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going anywhere anytime soon. Mm-hmm. But that is his brother. And I promise you that blood is going to be a loyalty over fans and a lot of other things, that you start to get into that and he becomes an issue that the fans hate or the city hates, you get some resentment that can build up. You don't want that to happen. That is not the fans' responsibility. That's Jackson Mahomes' responsibility with Patrick and being in the spotlight. Mahomes has handled that responsibility as well as anybody can. Jackson has not. We have not heard anything outside of the February 25th incident. Really, the last time we heard something about, Jackson and was the Commanders game with Sean Taylor.
Yeah.
And that I talked about at the time.
Yeah, that wasn't really their fault.
That was Washington. I had a conversation with my buddy over the weekend who was in town covering Will Levis, and he was talking about that. He's like, yeah, but then, they do that thing in Washington. I'm like, no. There are details there that were just left out because of who it was they were talking about. Okay, they specifically set up for the family to stand there. That's Washington's issue. They didn't know that was the case. Other family members of players were also standing there in that spot. They didn't know that was specifically painted on that day. There's a lot of things that went into that. So we haven't really heard much from Jackson. And maybe this was the wake-up call. Maybe this was yeah, dude, you get it together, or the gravy train stops. The faucet doesn't have to continue to stay on, So maybe this is a wake-up call. It's an unfortunate wake-up call if the allegations are true, and they are looking at video surveillance. The owner has released a picture, a still shot of that happening. He clearly is arrested and going to be arraigned for a reason. There's enough evidence there to charge him. So we'll see. Maybe this is all right, get your stuff together. How about this? Go be a big part of 15 and Mahomies. Go do that. Go and just take on responsibility, not just being a social media influencer. Go do that. Be a positive locally and in the community for Patrick Mahomes, because he's been nothing but a positive. And it's unfortunate that that's been the only issue, only part, and it has nothing to do with Patrick.
Yeah.
So there you go. This is what I said on February 26th, 27th, whenever that news came out, and just reiterated it today when now he's going to be arraigned in a few hours.
Yep. The only other thing that just sort of in the bookkeeping of it all is that in March, Jackson's lawyer sent out a statement to some of the news organizations about that video clip that was out and all of the claims along that process. Haven't seen anything new from his side in the last several hours since the arrest this morning.
Yep. And part of that statement was, our investigation has revealed substantial evidence refuting the claims of Jackson's accuser, including the statements of several witnesses. So, but there was enough evidence then to
that was in March.
At least come to some sort of an understanding of, you are going to be arrested. Here's what we're going to do. Here's where we need you to be. Lawyer, yes, he will be there and arraigned at 1:30. So there you go. There's the news that's out there. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. There it is. Said my piece earlier. Has nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs directly, but indirectly it does, to a degree. All right, so this exercise that I wanted to put together before that news there was, Arif Hassan has his consensus big board of the top 300 players. And he takes 70 or more, just depending on how many are out there, of people in the business, not teams, but people in the business, the Schefters and the Bruglers and the Daniel Jeremiahs and, the McShays of the world, the guys that have the PFFs, all the big boards that are out there. And he puts them together, comes up with the consensus of here is where these players are ranked. For instance, his top 10 consensus is Will Anderson, Bryce Young, Jalen Carter, C.J. Stroud, Bijan Robinson, Tyree Wilson, Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon, Paris Johnson Jr., and Peter Skoronski. That's the top 10. After that is, Jackson Smith and Jigba and a number of other players. So we've discussed whether or not the Chiefs were reaching, trading up, losing value to get players that maybe other teams or other analysts say, that seems early for that particular player to go, especially to trade up. A number of people had Rashee Rice as a third round, maybe a late second rounder. There was a consensus surprise that Rashee Rice was taken where he was taken. And in fact, his consensus big board for the newest Chief wide receiver was...
Jason is going through pages at the moment, so it makes me think it's continually lower.
I'm just going to pull up my notes. I had the papers right in front of me, but I've got it in my actual notes of where he was in the consensus big board. He was consensus number 76, and the Chiefs took him at 55. So, that's...
The original pick that round was 63.
It's 21 picks lower or ahead of where they were.
Yep.
So let's go through this. Let's sit at number 31 for the Chiefs. And as we marked off, I already did this before, but marked off all the players that were taken 1 through 30. And the players that would be available, and there were 3 players that stood out as available over the rest. Like you're talking about a player that was consensus 12, 16, and 19. The next on the board were in the 30s. Okay, so there's a significant difference. And if you're talking about consensus 12, that would be viewed as a consensus first-round grade. Even if you say, well, there are only 16 guys with consensus with a first-round grade, well, if somebody is ranked 12th, then that would be a consensus first-round grade. Okay. So, Chiefs on the clock at number 31. The top player available on the big board is Joey Porter Jr., ranked 12th overall. Mm-hmm. The next top player is Brian Branch, safety from Alabama, ranked 16th. After that is Michael Mayer, ranked 19th, tight end from Notre Dame. Will Levis at 26, but you're not going for Will Levis at 26. After that, you would end up at number 30 with O'Cyrus Torrence, the guard from Florida, which is whom Peter King mocked to the Chiefs. They're not going to take a guard. So that leaves 3 players. If we're going by big board, you're following your board, you're following the big board, you're not drafting for need, you're drafting for best player. If we're just simply going by that, you've got 3 choices. Joey Porter Jr. at cornerback, Brian Branch at safety, Michael Mayer at tight end. Who you taking at 31? Because I've got my selections, because then it will affect who you take in the second round.
So if you say I have to pick from that group,
those are the 3 you're picking from. Unless you want to take O'Cyrus Torrence or Darnell Washington is on the board as well, but he's he's down as well. But those are your choices.
If I had to pick from that group, I think, first of all, I think it's fascinating that group is so small, which means, as we talked about this last week, 1 to 30 went ultimately pretty by the book. It's not 10 guys in that group. For the Chiefs, I'd be fascinated with Michael Mayer. Mayer. It's Mayer. I want to say Mayer every time.
That's fine.
I called him the mayor of Las Vegas now to try to remember that.
Sure.
Michael Mayer would be fascinating. Joey Porter Jr. would probably be the most valuable pick there. Brian Branch just fine.
So who you select? You got to turn in a card.
I'll take Joey Porter Jr.
JPJ for Josh. Okay, so we go through now. The next group of selections go off the board. Sitting at pick number 55 for the Chiefs. And I have taken Felix Anudike-Uzomah off the board because he was number 46.
He would have gone. I love it. Yep.
I can't imagine he would still be there at 55.
With you.
If he was, then I can imagine the Chiefs then trading up and going, well, let's get this guy. Because they took him at 31. They clearly liked him. So I came up with a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players that were right in a mix of available to the Chiefs. Here are those players at 55. O'Cyrus Torrence at number 30. Darnell Washington at 31. Kelee Ringo at number 38. DeJuan Jones at number 40. Adetomiwa Adebawore at 63. Antonio Harrison, safety from Texas A&M, at 64. After that, there's a drop-off. So those are the 7 guys. There's 6. There's 8 actually, with Adetomiwa and Antonio Johnson. But regardless, even if we take, let's do this. Let's take Adebawore and Antonio Johnson out of it. Let's just go with these 6 that are there, 30 to 40. There are 6 guys in the range of 30 to 40, and the Chiefs trade up to 55 to get them. Guard, tight end, wide receiver, Josh Downs, cornerback, Kelee Ringo, center, John Michael Schmitz, tackle, DeJuan Jones. You took JPJ first. So you took cornerback. I'm guessing you're probably not going to go Keely Ringo.
Definitely not. If I'm being blind to the rest of the draft, I would take DeJuan Jones there, who went 111.
Yep.
So his slide is nowhere near done by the time
Right.
we're at in this exercise.
But we don't know he's going
Correct.
111.
Absolutely.
We're going by the big board here.
If I don't know that at all by
You
the mock
choose
draft,
tackle.
if I'm doing a mock draft in this world, and just for the sake of people not yelling at me in advance, if we were doing a mock draft in the first round, I would have taken Felix there. Just would have been bad value by this board. But
Right. But
I
if-
would have gone Felix and DeJuan Jones. I'll take JPJ and DeJuan Jones in the exercise.
Right. My first round pick was Michael Mayer. So I'm not going Darnell Washington here. I'm not taking a guard in Osiris Torrance. I'm not taking a center in John Michael Schmitz. I could go Keely Ringo, or Ringo. I could go Josh Downs at wide receiver. I'm personally not a fan of Josh Downs.
Yeah.
So this is where board and value and even my own personal opinion coming in. I'm with you. I'm taking DeJuan Jones.
Where was Jalen Hyatt at? Out of curiosity on the big board.
Jalen Hyatt was number 42. So I should include, Jalen Hyatt should be included.
He might
in that
actually
too.
be my. Can I make him my pick
Yes,
there then?
yes.
Not my favorite, but
I
if I
apologize.
have to play the value game,
I had him listed here, and I don't know why I didn't read it off.
because
but
you
I-
hate him. And it's
No,
okay,
that
we
is
know
not-
this.
no,
You
I-
hate Jalen Hyatt.
I had him listed here. He went after 55, so he should be listed
You
here.
hope he has a bad career.
Yeah, so you're going Hyatt and
It was-
JPJ.
Where was Tillman on the big board? Because now we're playing a different. Now we're really pumping up our board.
Tillman was later.
Okay, yeah, I'll take Jalen Hyatt then.
Yeah, Cedric Tillman was number 62.
We're playing DBs and wide receivers over here on
You
my
got
side.
Joey Porter Jr. and Jalen Hyatt.
I feel better about that.
I've got Michael Mayer and DeJuan Jones. You know I'm not a Hyatt fan. I'm not a Josh Downs fan.
I like your draft too.
Yes.
It's coming together okay.
And now we go to the third round. All of these different players taken. We can't say that the players that were there would still be available unless they haven't been selected from 55 to 92. So we get to the third round. Available in the third round, Keely Ringo, number 38. And they're sitting there at 92. Shut up. Keely Ringo at number 38 is still there. Now, he was part of the mix there in the second round.
Yeah.
He's still there. Adi Tamiwa, Adebore, edge, defensive tackle, is still there. He is ranked number 63. Now we're picking at 92. Antonio Johnson, safety from Texas A&M, listed at 64. You've got Clark Phillips, the cornerback, who is listed at 65. And then Jordan Battle, safety from Alabama, listed at 68. After that, there's a center. There's Tyler Scott, the wide receiver. You can go that route if you want to go Tyler Scott, the wide receiver. I doubt you would do that.
Yeah.
Tyler Scott, the creator. Maybe
I
that
like
would be
that.
the case.
I would
don't know.
pick
That would have
him.
been a fun nickname. So you're on the clock. You've got Keely Ringo, Adebore, Antonio Johnson, Clark Phillips, Jordan Battle. There are 3 safeties and a cornerback there to
Yeah.
choose from. That's an interesting pocket,
It is.
as Brett Veach would talk about. It's a really interesting pocket of players that are sort of playing that position. And we know the Chiefs wanted a safety. They traded up and got Shamar Connor.
I'm running my card in for Tommy here, especially not having gotten a defensive end yet.
Okay, Addy time.
Sprinting in for him. Yep.
Okay, you were going with him, and you and I agree.
Got to there, right?
I'm going. I would be really tempted to go with Keely Ringo, because that
I
just
get it.
seems like ridiculous value sitting there at 38. If we're going by this is our big board and we trust our big board.
Freaking Howie Roseman at it again.
Yes.
All I had to do was wait.
Chestnut checkers
Mother bleeper.
is what they're playing. But I'm going Adi Tamiwa, Adebore. So I end up in my first. After that, so many things can change after
Sure.
that. We're not doing 4th through 7th rounds.
Veach
This is
even
just-
said thirds when it starts getting kind of weird.
Yeah.
This feels like a good
So
cutoff.
you end up with cornerback Joey Porter Jr.,
Yeah.
wide receiver Jalen Hyatt, tweener defensive tackle edge Adi Tamiwa. I like calling Felix N'Udike Uzama Felix.
Yeah.
We'll just call him Adi Tamiwa.
Tommy. They call him Tommy.
I come away with tight end Michael Mayer and an ecstatic Tim Grunhard. Tackle DeJuan Jones and Adi Tamiwa. I feel pretty good about my draft.
Me too.
I've got a tweener, I've got a tight end, and I've got a tackle. You've got a cornerback, a wide receiver, and a tweener, edge, defensive tackle type player. The reason I wanted to do this is to compare it to what the Chiefs actually came away
I
with.
think it's a blast.
Would you rather have Rashee Rice, Felix N'Udike Uzama, or Wanya Morris than what your 3 players are?
I think
You would take Felix over Adi Tamiwa, right?
yes, absolutely.
Okay, there you go.
Absolutely.
So now it's Jalen Hyatt and Rashee Rice or JPJ and Wanye Morris.
And I think now you kind of stack it that way, and JPJ over a sort of ascending but developmental tackle prospect. Easy button. Absolutely.
Absolutely,
You'd
for
rather
sure.
have the 32nd overall pick in this year's draft and a guy who was graded higher than that. But I don't necessarily envy the drafts that we just came up with compared to where the Chiefs landed. Not just because of positional need, but as we've talked about, positional value. We went to pretty high value spots for our picks here just now. Tight end's kind of an outlier, but the way Chiefs use tight end is a different game. He's a pass catcher.
Tight end was an outlier. The reason I went there is because it's a weapon. Whether
Yes,
it's wide receiver or
yes.
tight end, it was a weapon.
His game could have been used similarly to what Rashee Rice does for jump ball stuff and
Right.
red zone targets and all of that, and could have developed into more.
Not position specific, but a weapon.
And a Chiefs value is a position they value significantly and will continue in the future. I'm just fine with their 1, 2, 3, but it's because I would have made the same pick at 31 once we got there
Right.
for the Chiefs. Then after that, if you cut it off there and we repicked it again,
Do you still go Hyatt?
I wouldn't have traded up for Rashee Rice. I would have let the wide receiver board fall,
Now that
and
we know.
we probably both would have taken Tillman once they got there.
Absolutely.
That's probably where we both would have ended up. And then I would have been happy with Tommy in the third. I would have been happy with DeJuan Jones in the third.
But you wouldn't have taken Tommy, would you, in the third because you
Not
had
with Felix. No.
Yeah.
Probably, if I had all of my options, I might have gone Felix, Tillman at the original spot, and DeJuan Jones.
I
Would have probably
would-
been my slight tweaking.
I probably would have done the exact same thing. But I actually take Felix, Rashee Rice, and Wanye Morris over Mayer, DeJuan Jones, and Adi Tamiwa. If we're just going by, here are the top-rated players available on the big board, and you also have need that goes into it. Where are you going? I just want to do the extra because the Chiefs are downgraded.
I think it's fascinating.
The Chiefs are downgraded because they reached on a lot of people's boards.
Right.
But what would that have looked like if they were given an A because they went with Mayer, DeJuan Jones, and Adi Tamiwa and had 20 to 30, maybe not in the first round, but second round and third round, you're talking about getting guys that are 20 to 30 spots lower than where they were ranked.
And if you keep the safety thing you mentioned in mind, if they go, hey, we think we're going to get a long-term deal done with Snead, we're not going to spend another premium asset on a corner, I would have been a little bit surprised but not unhappy with Brian Branch at 31. Like Brian Branch at 31 would have been
fine with it.
Would have been fine with me, and it could have still filled that role.
Yeah.
If you end up with DeJuan Jones and Tommy, I think we'd all be really happy with that draft. But now, who is your wide receiver? Where is he coming through? Because it's in the fourth round or later.
Yep. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll talk baseball with Jeff Montgomery. We will talk football with Cynthia Freeland. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
In my job, I never held back. I played hurt, and I pushed through the pain. Sound familiar?
Football legend Emmitt Smith had a reputation for just grinding through the injuries and pain over and over. That may be you. And QC Kinetics sees patients every day who are exhausted from dealing with the persistent pain.
A lot of you work physically demanding jobs. You stand, you climb, you bend down, you reach up, and if you have joint pain, it takes all you got to earn a living. But it's time you know.
Six 412-6299.
Just looking at big board and value and where we would have gone with selections that are there on the consensus big board. Because we've seen grades, and it's been, boy, the consensus grade has been sort of C+, C, C-, B- with the Chiefs. And a lot of this is based on, here's who the Chiefs selected. Here's where I had this person graded. I think there was better value somewhere else. I think they did fine. But they didn't blow anybody away in the draft like the Eagles and Nolan Smith and all of that stuff. So we'll get a little bit more into that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will talk with Monty, Jeff Montgomery, Royals Hall of Famer, Valley Sports. We'll talk to him next.
Hey, Josh Briscoe here with Garen Armstrong from Shamrock Roofing and Construction. So, Garen, what's the secret for putting a win on the board for homeowners hit by severe weather this season?
I think you got to draft the right team and have the best players in place. Shamrock Roofing and Construction is looking to add to the best team in KC. Find out more at 913-850-6556 or apply at shamrockroofer.com today.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We talk some baseball now. Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports Royals Hall of Famer, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City, ffbkc.com. Monty, how are you, sir?
Well, doing good, Jason. Looking forward to this team maybe getting things on a roll at some point. It seems like they can't seem to fit it all together. Seems like when they get the offense, can't get the pitching, and vice versa.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. And last night, they got the offense. They scored 7 runs. They hit 4 home runs, 2 of those from Salvador Perez. Is it just one of those random things, randomness in baseball, that we look at a team's record through 30 games and not just being 7-23, but the home versus road split? They've won, they've lost 10 games on the road, but they've won 6 of them. And at home, they're 1-13. And in those 14 games at home, they've been outscored by 53 runs. Those 16 games on the road, they've been outscored by only 15 runs. Is that randomness in baseball just one of those quirky things, or is there something to a home versus road split for a particular team?
I don't know what the answer to that question is. I wish I did. I think everybody would love to know the answer to that. Obviously, you'd fix it if you could, but it just seems like for the most part, they've had a difficult time scoring runs at home. I think they've had 4 shutouts at home. Last night, obviously, put on a little power display, but by and large, it seems like it's just been the inability to score runs at home. Now, opening the season home, you're going to play against a team like the Twins. When they opened up, you're going to see 3 really good pitchers, and I think that has a lot to do with it, who you're facing. We know the Twins very solid with regard to their rotation, and they showed that when they opened the season here in Kansas City. And that kind of set the tone for where this team has been with regard to their offensive abilities at home. I know the schedule's had a lot to do with it with regards to who they've played. They've had a really difficult schedule, one of the toughest schedules as far as the teams that have played against winning percentage in baseball. It seems like every team we play, they've got a 600-plus winning percentage, or they're in first place, or both. So, the schedule's not been extremely friendly up to this point.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday with Les Norman, Monty, that there's part of it that it's like, okay, look at these teams' records, how good they are, this season in teams that they've played, and being in first place and things like that. But also, I think the record before last night of teams they had played was 113-88. Now you can add 19-9 to that because that's what the Orioles record was before they came into Kansas City last night. But some of that, you say, well, yeah, they're beating the Royals. There are a lot of wins that are inflated there by beating the Royals. Even if you take the games against the Royals out, Monty, they've still played all of their games against teams that would average out to 86 wins in the season. So all the games, all the teams, you're looking at, if you just simply took all of them, took the record, and then that winning percentage, it's essentially an 86-win team is who they've played. So there is something to that. They haven't played great baseball, right? I mean, there's some things that they have to improve on, but we also acknowledge they're not ready to win right now. There is some of that is schedule inflated, not all of it, but there is at least an acknowledgement of that.
Right, and I think if you look at a team, the Baltimore Orioles, who they're playing right now, they're a really good example of what a young team has to find a way to do. Now, they did it about the middle of last season. They really turned things on, and they were a team that had really played poorly for a number of years. Lost 100 games 2 years ago, and last season they turned things around. One noticeable difference, like with the Orioles, for example, is Adley Rutschman, their catcher. He comes up in May of last year. The team was roughly 20 games over 500 since he's been up in 150 games. Before he came up in the 150 games prior to his arrival, they were 51 games below 500 in those 150 games before he played. Their pitching staff, their ERA is much lower. He's made an impact on their team. So it's a good example of what one player potentially can do for a team, and especially a group of younger players that are trying to figure things out at the major league level, guys that have played together and won together throughout their minor league careers. Now you get to the big leagues, you got to find a way to piece things together and make things click. And I always say you got to find a way to get all departments clicking on the same cylinder, and that's one thing that we just have not been able to do on any consistency at all this year.
It's an interesting point on the Orioles because what they ended up being last year, which was an 83-win team, so 83-79. On May 18th, they were 14-24. So you're right. The team they're playing, you look at it and go, well, here's an example of a team with a lot of younger players, pieces that they're hoping will grow into being part of a division-winning team, and they put it together, and they figured it out, and they won a lot of games, and they got hot, and they finished with 83 wins, and they've carried that over to a team that's now 20-9 this year. So it is an interesting point of them being 10 games under 500 in just their first 38 games. Now, that would take essentially a 7-game winning streak for the Royals. They'd have to go 7-1 over their next 8 games to be able to get to 14-24. So they'd have to start that hot stretch earlier. But that certainly is a possibility. How does a young team then, even if we're just looking at the Orioles and not studying them, game in, game out, and maybe Orioles broadcasts would be better suited to answer it, but just in general, a younger team that's struggling like that isn't scoring a whole lot of runs, that's getting outscored, that's 10 games under 500 and playing in the American League East, how do you sort of get things together, right the ship, and all of a sudden go on the run that they did to end up being what would be 14 games over 500 the rest of the way?
Yeah, I think it's more of a process that you look at. I think when you look at what the Royals did when they kind of built their championship teams, is they had players that were drafted together, they come through the system together, they get to the big leagues, and next thing to do is prove you can play in the big leagues, prove you deserve to be in the big leagues on a long-term basis. And most every player is going to, find his way at some point. Some never do, but when you have talented guys that everyone, not just your own organization, but everyone in baseball says this guy is one of the best prospects in the game. He's got the ability to be as good as a lot of players that are in the big leagues and have a long-term career. So you go through that stage as an individual where, hey, I've now proven that I can be in the big leagues. I no longer have an offer on an evening. I'm looking over my shoulder and my manager's telling me, hey, you're going to AAA. You get through those different stages of your career. And then once you get enough guys that are in that, at that stage of the process, then you can start winning. I saw that happening with our Royals team back in 2013 when guys suddenly, they had proven that they're big leaguers. Some of them had to go back to the minor leagues to do that. Some of them had to go through their struggles at the big leagues to do that. But eventually they all figure that out. And then suddenly, I always say you play for the name on the front of your jersey rather than the name on the back of your jersey, and understand that it's more of a team effort at that stage. And you're not just trying to prove you belong. Now you're trying to prove that you can help a team win.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery, Royals Hall of Famer, Bally Sports TV, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Good news last night from Salvi. It looked like bad news, and then it became good news. He does have a deep bruise on that finger. Day-to-day is what they're listing him as. X-rays came back negative, which is good because, as the broadcast sort of pointed out, like he wasn't moving that finger. Like he was trying to flex it, and it looked like that finger wasn't moving. And so good to see that it is not broken. We'll see how long he's out. But, Monty, one of the things that was brought up last night is, setting up closer to the plate to help frame pitches, to help steal some strikes. And we've seen this happen a number of times now with Salvi that got hit on a backswing by a batter. Is there a way to, I guess eliminating that would be, stepping back a little bit further where he's been in his career. But how do you marry that of a catcher that, an organizational philosophy that wants you to sit closer to the plate, to frame pitches, to help steal some strikes, yet we've seen him get hit by a backswing a few times?
Yeah, and I think there's so much information available in the game. I think you have a few hitters in the game that have that long backswing, and it just seems like those are the guys that maybe you have to be leery of and aware of the fact that, hey, he's going to have that long, extended backswing. We may want to sit back a little bit further when he's at the plate as opposed to being right up on the dish and you're putting yourself in a position where that's going to happen. When it happens twice in a game, it's pretty unusual, but we've seen that happen so many times with Salvador Perez, and not really just this year, but really over his career.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery, and that's a catcher. I don't know how long he'll be out. That's one of those things where you always got to fight Salvi to keep him out of the lineup because he wants to play every single day. But that's a tough one if your finger is bruised like that. I mean, you're receiving the baseball, 100-something times a game. Well, more than that because 100-something times for a starting pitcher. So you're looking at 150, 160, 170 pitches in a game. He's a tough guy, but that seems like a tough one for a catcher to come back from when you're talking about that catching hand that he's hurt.
Yeah, and I think he described it last night where he got hit in the knuckle.
Yeah.
So he got hit really probably in a bad spot right there. Probably a lot more immediate concern with regards to Salvador where he got hit. Maybe today it'll be calmed down a little bit and he'll be feeling a lot better. But you're right, he's hard to get out of the lineup. And especially when you get a guy hot, you want to find a way to keep him in that lineup. So I'm sure if he has any ability at all to play, he'll be in there today.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery, First Federal Bank of Kansas City presents Monty each and every week. We have him on. He's from Bally Sports, Royals Hall of Famer. Monty, you're out there on the mound, and things are starting to fall apart. How do you avoid a big inning? This team this year, as you know, and every single one of these games broadcasting it, they've been able to at least put a Band-Aid at times in that inning and get out of it, even though it might be a slow drip. Here's a couple of runs in this inning. Here's a few runs in that inning. Here's one run in this inning. And the next thing you know, you look up, you're down 7-2. But the last two games, it felt like they haven't been able to stop that bleeding, that they've it just piled on. 7 of the 8 runs that were scored by the Twins on Sunday came in the third inning. And then last night, the Royals were up 3-0. Ryan Yarbrough is cruising, and all of a sudden there's 5 runs in the fourth inning. They're down 5-3, and you feel like, well, there's the air out of the entire stadium, and probably not going to win this one. How do you avoid that big inning, and is it something to where it's just part of the process by Matt Quatraro and Brian Sweeney to have these guys go out and figure it out when you're out there?
Well, the most common part of those innings like that, in my opinion, happen when a pitcher loses his confidence. A pitcher suddenly he's cruising, just like we saw last night with Yarbrough, just cruising through these first 10 batters. Suddenly, a couple of hits, one of them being a home run. Now suddenly you lose a little bit of the confidence you have in your stuff, and you start nibbling a little bit. And seemingly all those big innings, usually there's a walk or 2 or 3, some free bases in there. And you just kind of get away from your game a little bit because Yarbrough, for example, last night, gosh, he was just on the attack and throwing all of his pitches and challenging hitters, and they were swinging and missing. Suddenly, he gets up the hit, then the home run, then he started missing the plate. And I don't know if it's because he didn't have the ability to throw a strike or he had a concern about throwing strikes that the result was not going to be good. So sometimes you get away from your game, you do exactly opposite of what you should do. Instead of being more of an attacker toward that strike zone, you become more of a nibbler, and you start trying to be very, very fine. You end up walking guys, and then another hit or two, suddenly it's a big crooked number on the board.
Is there a way to work through that on the mound at that time, or is it one of those things to where, you know what, go get him next time, and let's bring the next guy in, and hopefully he can get out of this? Because Ryan Yarbrough last night, I mean, again, he goes 3 innings, but also 3 1/3. He'd get, 5 strikeouts, no hits, no walks. And the next thing you know, 8 straight guys reach with 3 walks, a single, a double, a home run. And the next thing you know, it's 5-3. Can you figure that out on the mound? Can you get that confidence? Or is it one of those things where Quatraro and Sweeney just have to see that, notice it, and go, it's time to go to the next guy because he's not riding the ship out there right now?
Well, I think the toughest part for the manager and pitching coach in that situation was he was so dominant for the first 10 batters. He was just cruising so long, you just kind of had a feeling he's going to get an out because you got a lead to start with. He had a 3-0 lead, and he gives up the home run. It's still got a lead, but let's let the guy get back on track to where he was the first time through that lineup, and it just didn't happen. And it happened so fast. There wasn't time to get somebody up and warming and get him in there to take over. So the pitcher really has a responsibility of figuring things out kind of on the fly, and you can only go to the mound so many times and give him an opportunity to catch his breath and get things going. So the fatigue from throwing all those pitches and the lack of confidence just leads to somewhat of a disastrous inning like we saw last night.
Yeah, visiting with Jeff Montgomery. What did you see from Maikel Garcia last night? He ends up going 2 for 4. It was an unlucky at-bat with a couple of men on, and it would have been 2 RBIs. And he hit the ball 104 miles an hour, Monty. I mean, that's just I like how you call it stupid hitting. There's a guy there, right? Don't hit it right at him. But Mountcastle was right there, 104 miles an hour. He makes the leaping snag, and then the Orioles are out of the inning. But Garcia came back, got a couple of singles in his final 2 at bats. So what did you see from the rookie there last night?
Well, I remember last year when he came up, you could just tell he's very athletic. Really, really good hands on the infield. Naturally more of a shortstop, but he can play third base. I think it's a fairly easy transition going from short to third. We've seen a number of players do that. So it's probably a good kind of ease into the big leagues. I think he's going to play quite a bit. Here's a guy that had a tremendous winter ball. He had a great spring training. He looks like more of a power guy, but I think he's more of a speed guy. He's going to control the bat, line drive type hitter, gap hitter. He's just got that really, really nice gliding speed. So very gifted player. I think he's a big part of the future plans here, and hopefully, those 2 hits last night will be a nice little way for him to get things going this year and find a way to contribute to this team that needs that spark.
Do you think that'll be part of the plan moving forward? Is that he's at third base and they mix in Dozier at different places, and the left side of the infield is Bobby Witt and Garcia, or is Dozier the third baseman and they'll mix in Garcia at third base, shortstop if need be? Last night was the first time he played third base in major leagues, 9 games last year at shortstop. But how do you see it moving forward? Garcia the third baseman mixing in Dozier, or Dozier the third baseman mixing in Garcia?
I think it'd be more Garcia. I don't think you bring a kid up who's one of your top prospects in the organization and not give him a chance to go out and play every day, and particularly give him a position to play. I mean, we saw yesterday where Contreras said that MJ Melendez is going to be an outfielder, to eliminate that concern where you have to focus on catching and calling games. I mean, in those meetings when, with the pitchers and being in the outfield, trying to improve as an outfielder, they're just going to let him play right field or left field, wherever he's going to be in the outfield. Just worry about being a good outfielder, and then let the hitting kind of take over from there. Take a lot of stress off him, kind of let MJ Melendez ease into that position and not have to worry too much. I think they'll do the same thing with Garcia. They'll give him a position to play and let him play it and go out there and either prove or disprove his ability to play at this level.
Yeah, it was one of the questions I was going to ask you, so I'm glad you led me there. And MJ Melendez in the outfield, I got in a conversation yesterday with Les Norman about MJ and the struggles he's had at the plate, but the struggles he's had at the plate, I think, can overshadow what his improvement has been in right field. Like, he looks like he belongs out there. He doesn't look lost. Not to make fun, but he's not Billy Butler when they put Billy Butler in left field. He's not that. He looks like he belongs out there, and that's been a big improvement because last year he didn't look like that, Monty. So I do wonder how much the hitting has suffered with maybe the time he spent learning, perfecting, trying to pick up some of the smaller nuances of right field while also being the backup catcher, that you're doing 2 different positions, one that's incredibly difficult as a catcher, 2, a position you're learning for the first time in your career in right field at the big leagues when the balls are coming over 100 miles an hour at you in right field. How much can that impact somebody's performance at the plate when there's a lot on his, no pun intended, plate in the field?
Yeah, I think it should really ease his mind as far as all the thought process. I used this example yesterday in a conversation I was having shortly after Matt Quatrero named or identified the fact that he was going to be playing the outfield. Think about when Alex Gordon struggled so much playing third base. Didn't struggle at third, but struggled offensively. They sent him to the outfield, and it just seemed like he became a different player. I'm hopeful that that'll have a similar effect on MJ Melendez, to where he just becomes that hitter that we know he has the ability to be. And I'm not saying he's going to be Alex Gordon as far as playing in the outfield, but just the lack of thought process that goes into playing a position like a third base compared to, or catcher compared to playing the outfield, where you don't have to be as concerned about the defensive side of things. You can work on your defense and play good defense, and you become an elite defender, but it just takes a lot of the thought process out, which could hopefully eliminate a lot of that confusion going on in your mind when you try to get in a batter's box and hit a pitch at 100 miles an hour.
Baseball's fun, though. It has a way of changing your plans when you announce that for the near future that MJ Melendez is going to play right field and Fermin is going to be the backup catcher, and then Salvi leaves the game with an injury to his hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Baseball is like, oh really, Q? Yeah, we'll see about that plan of Melendez exclusively being an outfielder. And he did note that there's based on the health of Salvi, and then what are the odds that 8 innings later that ends up happening? Last one for you, Zach Greinke on the mound tonight. He has struggled in his last 4 outings. His ERA has gone from 2.3 to 6.1. How much is that just Greinke, struggling or, trying to find the strike zone? There's been a number of walks, not as many, but less strikeouts, I should say. Not as many walks, but less strikeouts. But he's gone up against the Rangers, the Braves, the Angels, and the Twins in those outings. So how much is it Greinke maybe struggling, and how much is it he's gone up against some of the best lineups in baseball the last 4 times out, and tonight's not going to be much different?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough lineup for him. I mean, here's a team that, they're top to bottom. Last night they had, hitters that had the ability to do a lot of damage, a lot of RBIs, a lot of home runs, just a lot of power in their lineup. The biggest thing, to me, for Zach Greinke, he needs to be very fine with his location. We know he can't overpower. Early in the season, he was very on spot with regards to his curveball, his sweeper, all the pitches that he's has the ability to throw. He's spot on with regards to his location, and he has not been as sharp with his location. Yeah. Now, pitching in Kauffman Stadium seems to be very friendly for Zach Greinke. He seems like he's a different pitcher when he's pitching in Kauffman Stadium. I'm not sure if it's the dimensions, what it is, but he seems to be one of those guys that really, really likes pitching in this ballpark. So maybe that'll be something that turns the corner for him here this evening. Yeah,
I think 14 of his 14 of his 21 runs he's given up have been on the road. So he's only given up 7 earned runs at Kauffman Stadium. So he's pitched 3 games at home, 3 games on the road. So it's an even split. And he's given up 14 earned runs on the road and 7 at home. So maybe there's something to that. Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports Royals Hall of Famer, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City, ffbkc.com. Monty, you're the man. Appreciate it. Have a good broadcast. And next week, I'm hoping as the schedule lightens up, we'll be talking about more wins and production and things like that, and seeing some of those stresses maybe from the Royals players ease a little bit with some W's in the win column. We'll see if that's the case. Monty, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, Jason.
You got it. There's Jeff Montgomery, FFBKC, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, presenting Monty each and every time we have him on a Wednesday. 6:40 tonight. It is Zach Greinke heading to the mound to take on Kyle Gibson. Sub-4 ERA for Kyle Gibson, but that sub-4 ERA is with an offense that's pretty good, so he's 4-0 on the season. Zach Greinke's 0-4 with a 6.1 ERA. But he shouldn't be 0-4 with some of the games that he has actually pitched pretty well in. We'll see. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will continue rolling. It's The Zone presented by Google Fiber. Cynthia Freeland coming up at noon. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer at 1 o'clock. More Zone next.
You're in The Zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, it's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch? Every day, from lunch to late night. Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Hey, Kansas City, Stephen St. John here, and I've got amazing news from Window Nation. You can modernize and reinvest in your home today with new windows from Window Nation, and it's their best deal. 0% interest for 5 full years. On top of that, you'll get 2 windows free with every 2 you buy. It's a double deal. You'll get all the advantages of more comfort, lower energy bills, higher home value, and jealous neighbors, all with the impeccable construction and expert installation Window Nation is known for. They've placed nearly 2 million windows with 96% perfection, making them one of the top window companies in the country. If your home is over 15 to 20 years old, this is one of the smartest investments you can make. Call today, 866-90NATION, or visit windownation.com and lock in these incredible...
Thank you to Jeff Montgomery. 1-13. 1-13. How do we ever win one game? It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
Lollygaggers. You lollygag in and out of the dugout. You lollygag up and down the first base line. You know what that makes you? Right? Lollygaggers. Lollygaggers. 1-13. They have at least won 6 games on the road. Now, that's out of 16 games played. But the run differential is amazing. They've played 16 games on the road, and they are minus 15. They have played 14 games at home, and they are minus 53.
You guys, you lollygag the ball around the infield. You lollygag your way down to first. You lollygag in and out of the dugout. Do you know what that makes you, Larry? Lollygaggers. Lollygaggers.
Larry? Lollygaggers. Lollygaggers.
You know, thanks to our friends over at Tickets for Less.
Yeah.
You go tonight for $8 a ticket for some of the view boxes. You want to, get a little bit of a more premium seat. We can get you some great seats for $20.
There you go. You could actually play first base for $20. I mean,
let's
put you at DH.
Let's say you've been buying $20 tickets for what you said, 14 home games, 1-13.
1-13.
You could have spent $280 at $20 a pop for one seat. You want to double it to bring a friend. You could have gone, and more importantly, because like $280 for 14 Major League Baseball games, not expensive in a Major League Baseball scale. But you could have spent about $300. And let's call it, last night was their first 3-hour game of the year, right? City's games have averaging about 2.5 hours. We'll say we're going to make it an even 3 because you got to get there, and certainly parking and everything, haven't accounted for the cost of parking. Let's make it 48 hours of your life. You spent 2 natural days in Kauffman Stadium, and you would have seen 1 win.
I don't want to go through it. Somebody else can go through it. I wonder how many innings they've led in. Because they led for 3 innings last night, right? It was the third. No, it was the 4th inning. But they led for 3.
They were
led
for
3-0 leading into the 4th. Coming out of the 4th inning, when they had their chance at the plate on the bottom of the 4th, they were down 5-3. So they led for 3 innings last night. I wonder how many total innings, if you've gone to all 14 games, have you seen the Royals actually lead? Now, if you went to all 14 games, you saw them lead for, I don't know, at least another inning because they beat the Blue Jays 9-5. Back on April 3rd, by the way. That's the last home win. April 3rd. It's exactly a month ago today.
April 3rd. And that was again, super obvious now, that was the only win in April in Kauffman.
Yeah, it was the only win in April in 2023. The only win in Kauffman in the entire
period.
year.
Right.
They're on a 10-game home losing streak. They were 1-3, and now they're 1-13. So they have had a rough go of it, including an entire homestand in which they were swept by the Braves and the Rangers.
I don't have an answer for this. I'm asking this one not rhetorically, but genuinely. Why? Is that just randomness? Is it just noise? Is it just we're just sort of mucking about?
I mean, Monty, that's one of the first questions I asked him. He said, everybody wants to know the answer to that. I have no idea what the answer to that is. Everybody wants to know the answer to that. I don't know. But it is an interesting, it's not like they're playing amazing baseball on the road.
This is the thing. That's where I'm at. Is I think that 1-13 at home and 6-10 away.
I mean, 16 games, yeah.
That's within the margin of error, right? There is reasonable noise there. You could be bad enough that
61 wins is the pace for their road record right now. If they just played every single home and road game like they have played on the road, they would be pacing for 61 wins.
Still be 8 games below their over-under.
It'd still be a 100-loss team. They would still be a 61-101 team. They would still be 100 losses. But here's look, remember when they were 4-9 and we thought disaster?
Yeah, now that you say that, I do.
They were 4-9 getting ready to return home after almost taking the series against the Rangers. And they return home 4-9. All right, you got the Braves. Rangers again. You had a chance to take that series, but now you're at home. And they have gone they've gone 3-14 since then. They were 4-9, and it was like the sky was falling. Now they're 3-14 since they were 4-9. But even 4-9, that's still pacing for 50 wins on the season. It's just right now they're pacing for 38. So it's getting kind of hard to believe things are going to get better.
3-14 was the Chicago Bears record last year, by the way.
Oh yeah,
yeah, worst team in the sport. 3-14. That's what that feels like. They only got to play one game a week though. So
how about that? What if you're a Bears and White Sox fan? This has been a rough 7 months.
At least they feel like they have a quarterback. I can't explain their payroll.
Yeah, $190 million.
It's just so deeply deflating.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to. If there's another thing you want to talk about with the Royals, but I just end up at just this this existential place.
I think the tie-in with the Orioles is interesting.
Yeah,
because the Orioles
and
won,
also depressing.
Yes, that's right. The Orioles won 83 games last year. Okay, they were 83-79. They weren't gangbusters. They didn't come out of nowhere and win 90. But 83-79 seems like that is a monumental achievement for this Royals team if they were to get to 83-79. Yeah. But on May 18th, I know that you were doing some different things while I was talking to Monty, but on May 18th, in 38 games, again, they won 83. Do you know what their record was on May 18th through the first 38 games of the season?
Last year?
Last year for the Orioles. Again, they finished 4 games over 500. So they, in their first 38 games, what was their record?
I'm going to make them just a little under 500. They're 18-20. It's worse than that?
They were actually 14-24.
Wow.
They were 10 games under. Now, that ain't 7-23.
No.
Because the Royals would have to go 7-1 over the next 8 games just to get to the low water mark of the Orioles last year. But that said, they were not playing great baseball. No. They were 10 games under 500, May 18th. And then they played 14 games. They went 69-55. Nice. The rest of the way. The Orioles did. So what changed for them? Because they had a younger team.
Yeah.
They were bringing up prospects. They were trying to figure it out. And then they just started playing great baseball. And they have carried it over. And young guys have come up and helped them out. And they've got more young guys. They've got freaking Colton Cowser, who's sitting down there in AAA, who's OPSing over 1,000, who's playing an awesome, outfield, batting 300, and has 5 home runs in his last 6 games. And he's not up with the big leagues yet. The number 1 prospect in all of baseball heading into this year, in Gunnar Henderson, is up, and he has been awful at the plate. He was great last night in terms of at third. I mean, as a diving stop, gets up, fires it over to first, one of the best arms in baseball at third base. He's, the number 1 prospect in baseball because of offense and defense, not just because he's going to mash, he's going to be, Giancarlo Stanton or something like that, or Pete Alonso, right? He's a really good defensive third baseman, and he's pretty darn good with the bat. Well, he's batting 170 this year, but he's also getting on base at 340. So he's walking a lot. He is not struggling to the point of he's just swinging at everything because he's in a slump. He's doing what he can. That's the number 1 prospect in baseball that's batting 170 on a team that's now 20-9 when they've got other guys coming up and things like that. They have stockpiled their farm system, but also they've stockpiled their farm system with guys that have come up and have produced. Again, I mentioned Gunnar Henderson because he hasn't produced yet. But the difference being his non-production is still 80 points higher of on base than Bobby Witt, who's been in the big leagues for over a year now.
Yeah.
Adley Rutschman, who Monty pointed out, Adley Rutschman was brought up, and he has been a superstar. He has been a guy that, I think he said they're 20 games over 500 since he's been called up. Now, of course, it's got to be more than that because they're 11 games over 500 right now. So no, that'd probably be right since he was called up because they played 14 games over 500 after their low water mark, and he wasn't called up right then on May 18th. So
that makes sense, yeah.
Since he's been with the Orioles in almost a full season, they've been 20 games over 500. Now that's unfortunate because he went number 1 and Bobby Witt went number 2.
Yep. I think that's worth noting just because those are where those 2 teams started. Rutschman was clearly the number 1 guy. I don't remember hearing even much at the time of being maybe Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt, people were excited to have it too.
Rutschman was Trevor Lawrence.
But he was number 1 with a bullet. Yeah. And that's where those 2 teams started from in that draft and what has happened since then.
And they had a guy in Cedric Mullins who Was not a big prospect. It's sort of like Whit Merrifield, but a younger Whit Merrifield. Not a big prospect comes through, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, this guy's batting 300 as an all-star. Cool. Throw him out there. Mountcastle wasn't a huge all-star, or a huge prospect. But he's had a game this year already with 9 RBIs. Last night he had 5. All right, so they got some guys that can come through, and I don't know how many people would be walking around, even big baseball fans, maybe if you don't play fantasy baseball, say, who's Ryan Mountcastle? I don't know. Is he the Duchess of York?
He sounds like one of the Knights of the Round Table for sure.
The Duke of York? I don't know. What is Ryan Mountcastle? I'm not sure. Oh, he's a first baseman for the Orioles. Oh, no bleep. Cool. Good for him, man. Good for you. Cool, man.
429.
What about him?
429 is Adley Rutschman's on-base percentage this year.
Yeah, but you're acting like that's good.
I mean, it's just his entire slash line this year is just hilarious to me.
His career on base percentage, because he played 113 games last year, his career on base percentage is almost 380.
Yeah, that'll play, I believe the kids say.
And he's OPSing at 900 as a catcher. I mean, he is playing like the number 1 pick in the draft. Like the number 1 pick in the draft with a bullet was Adley Rutschman.
Yep.
Oregon State all year long, it was like, this is the guy. Orioles take him with the number 1, pick. And from 2019, the rest of that season, 2020 was COVID, 2021 in the minors, and then last year, 2022. So from June of 19 to early June of 22, they've had a guy who is 25 years old, just turned 25, and is one of the best catchers, both sides, overall player in baseball. And the Royals had Bobby Witt, who was thought of that could be, a superstar. And there's a concern that, he might just be a good player.
Yeah.
He might just be somebody in Major League Baseball that's got some great speed, can steal you 30 bags a year, can probably hit you 15 to 20 home runs. Does he play a decent shortstop? That increases his value if you got to move him to third. Less value. Is he going to get on base over 300 in his career? Is he going to be at 310, 315? What's he going to bat? The slug will help out with the on-base percentage. As he gets more into baseball, as his body starts to fill out, the power will come even more, and he's already got power.
Yep.
Like, he's already a guy that's got just natural pop. As he gets bigger and his body continues to fill out, there'll be more power, and I wonder if pitchers are knowing if he gets a hold of one, it's an easy double into the gap. If it's just an easy swing for him because the power's there, that you start being a little more careful with him, which could then increase the on-base percentage, things like that. Maybe that will help. But you also have last night where it's a 1-2 count, and the pitch is in the dirt in the left-handed batter's box, and he just swings as if he's got any chance of hitting that. I mean, missed by 3 feet. Like, there's no way anybody should ever swing at that. Now, I've never played, I'm not a Major League Baseball player, we see guys take bad swings all the time. But already coming in at your feet and already starting off the plate and working away with a right-hander to the other batter's box where the catcher has to reach all the way to his left to get it, and you just swing right through it and got no chance. Like, that's a surrender at bat to me. Because if you're up there battling, as in like, I am connected in this at bat is incredibly important because we got a chance in this game still. We're trying to mount a comeback. We're down 7-4, whatever it was at that time. We've got a chance here. That was a surrender swing. That was dugout's right there. I can go sit down. And that's a concern because we know he's better than that. He's too talented to not be better than that. But I don't know if that's between the ears, if that's just he'll never have that sort of ability to ball out of the hand like Vinny Pasquantino. It's like a foot out of the hand for a pitcher. Pasquantino knows where it's going to go. And by the way, he's getting some benefit of the doubt. Last night, and maybe it's right-handed, left-handed, something like that. But last night, there was a pitch let's see, what did he bat in the lineup? Was he second in the lineup last night behind Bobby
It was kind
Witt?
of funky.
Yeah, he was second.
I think
So
he
it was
second.
Witt, Vinny, Salvi, MJ. So Bobby Witt pitches on the outside part of the plate for him, and it's right on the edge, and it's called a strike. Vinny Pasquantino next at bat, same pitch, almost a little bit closer to a strike, and he just spits on it. Ball one. Now, maybe it's a right-handed batter, left-handed batter, but I also wonder, like, Witt's got the reputation if he strikes out a lot. He doesn't have a great idea of the strike zone, where Vinny Pasquantino has a really good idea of the strike zone.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's close, he knows it's going to be close on the wrong side of the strike zone.
Right.
And I do wonder if reputationally he's already getting some benefit of the doubt that, oh, that was close, but he didn't even think about swinging. That's a ball. That's going to be a ball because it was the same spot almost 2 pitches apart. Now, umpires are not robots.
Sure. Much to our chagrin.
Unfortunately.
Yet.
Unfortunately. But I do wonder that if that starts to help out, because it can work the other way too. Like, well, this guy, this guy, that's a strike. This guy over here, he's got no idea what he's doing.
Meanwhile, Adley Rutschman's leading the American League in walks. Third in baseball, leading the American League.
23 of them. And 18 strikeouts, by the way.
This is another just sort of element to the frustrating or just unfortunate parts of what this season's shaping up to be. I don't, obviously Bobby Witt has been underwhelming to the start of this season, right? That feels like generous and fair. No part of me wants to have the leading story of this season being, so should we start lowering expectations for Bobby Witt? It's May 3rd. Should we start lowering his career expectations? Or whatever angle we end up taking on it. But the issue, and this is something we talked about a little bit with Les yesterday, there's nowhere for Bobby Witt Jr. or MJ Melendez to hide. And I don't mean cower and fear. I mean, there's nowhere for them to go and have a bad day or a bad week or certainly a bad month, because the engine of the offense is largely running through them, with Vinny obviously being kind of the young success story, and Salvador Perez is Salvador Perez, which is both a compliment and a concern at times, right? But there's no feeling that someone else is going to pick up this lineup for some stretch of time when you can say, yeah, Bobby's struggling on this or that and working on this or that, because there being an ebb and flow to his development is the most normal thing possible. The outlier is when somebody shows up in the majors and never slows down and never stops improving. There's never a setback, any of that. That's the rare thing. Bobby Witt's ceiling is still super high. I want to be able to feel like we can allow him to go through that entire growing experience without it directly also being analogous to anything the Royals do. When it's always Witt's down, Royals down. Witt's up, Royals still maybe down. Like, that is a really frustrating spot to be in, and I worry about his development through that lens more so maybe than the development itself.
Should also point out as we go to break that the Orioles didn't just bring up 26 men from the minor leagues, and that's what their team is made of. They've got some prospects that have been pretty good, and then they've got an Adam Frazier who's OPSing at 660, and playing 28 of the 30 games that they've played, 29 games. You've got a 33-year-old James McCann who's OPSing at 690, a 29-year-old Anthony Santander who's OPSing at 656. So it is not up and down the lineup. These guys are just mashers, and it's like every single draft pick they had is just succeeding at a really high level. But they've got some guys there, and same thing with the pitching staff. But somehow they find ways to win games. And that's shouldn't say never. That hasn't been who the Orioles have been for a while. Yes. They have found ways to lose games, and something clicked last year to where now they just win. I don't know what that was. That just clicked. Because they didn't just bring a whole bunch of people up at the same time, and it's like, well, look, now we're just overloaded with all this talent. How could we possibly lose? No. They're just a good team. It's well put together, and they find ways to win games, even when they're down 3-0. They go and outscore a team 11-2 or 11-4 the rest of the way. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up the hour next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 8.
At noon, some NFL football. NFL draft. She was a big part of the NFL Network coverage of the draft Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So we will talk with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network's analytics expert, coming up at noon. We will talk with Mick Schaefer at 1 o'clock. Right now, we want to go ahead and hook you guys up with a couple of tickets for NASCAR coming up this weekend. May 7th, NASCAR Cup Series Advent Health 400, 2 o'clock. The 75th anniversary of racing, and it returning to Kansas Speedway. Free parking, bring your own cooler, and the pre-race activities in the Midway display area or infield fan walk. We will give away. Let's do 2 different pairs, 2 pairs of tickets.
Let's do it.
Should we do caller 25 and 70?
I think that works for me, Drake. Let's do 25 and 70.
No, 31 and 55. The Chiefs drafted 31st and 55.
I thought you were just doing like a Priest Holmes, Frank Clark thing.
Yeah, no, 31 and 55. Or, Drake, would you like just to do like 8 and 10 or something?
I would like to get Drake to answer triple-digit phone calls.
Okay.
So caller number 1 and caller number 999 right now, 913-381-1010.
Callers 8 and 10, please.
No.
Okay, 8 and 10
Drake
works.
will answer the phone and go, caller number 1, hold on, you're a winner. Caller number 999, hold on, you're a winner.
He'll play by the rules for 8 and 10, though,
that's
so
right.
there you go.
Caller 8 and 10 at 913-381-1010, 913-381-1010, not the text line, but the phone line, 913-381-1010. Caller 8 and caller number 10 will win a pair of tickets to NASCAR coming up this Sunday, the Cup Series Advent Health 400 coming up at 2 o'clock. So we will... We'll give those away right now.
Did you ever go out there for even like a little qualifying or any of the big NASCAR action at the Speedway?
In 2019, when the Cup was in town in October of 2019, my wife and I went out there and we got the hot pass and everything, and that was pretty cool for us to be able to take part in that and just see everything up close and personal.
That to me, it is a sport that benefits from at least having one in-person experience because it really puts what you see on TV into better context.
Yeah.
The speed and noise, it looks loud and fast on television. The speed and noise is not properly represented through your TV screen, and we got a great race right here on the Kansas side.
Absolutely, we got to we actually sat in the pit area. Where the family sits with Bubba Wallace's team.
Oh, really?
So we were up there. They're like, yeah, go ahead. They talked to somebody with that was back there, and they're like, oh yeah, go ahead. There's a couple of spots up here in Bubba's group. So we sat in like the third row. Right, we weren't in the front row, but it was his whole family.
Smart.
And they've got the headphones on, and they're listening to the conversation right in the window pit, and that was cool just to see like from that perspective, like the access you get at some of the events with NASCAR is unlike any other. It's unbelievable. And he was pitting right next to, I believe it was Joey Logano. That for some reason my wife was like, he's good looking. I'm like, really? Logano? I think his wife's good looking. Take that, honey.
Hold on. Let me look at Joey Logano again. I'm thinking you might be able to turn this into a positive for you. I feel like, let's see, do you and Joey Logano have anything in common?
She does often say somewhat people that kind of look like me are like, oh, he's nice looking. Yeah. But he looks like you.
I'm looking at a headshot of Joey Logano and then back at Jason again. I'm looking up and down and up and down.
Would you look at him and say, oh, he's nice looking? He's a good looking guy. I don't know that I would pick out Joey Logano.
I don't want to make a ruling on this in a judgmental way, but I would not pass Joey Logano and go, whoa, my goodness, Brad Pitt back here.
You wouldn't expect maybe a female to double take? Like looking, ooh, who's that?
I don't know, man. Your wife clearly has a eclectic taste in men.
She has a type.
She ever have an eye exam or anything, or do you specifically try to forbid that?
No, I'm just like, I don't know,
You guys are married with kids and all of that now. I mean, she knows.
It's kind of over for both of us.
I have heard Joey push his jokes too far, so maybe that's it.
People around him are like, yeah, we get it, man. Yeah, we understand.
Joey, get out of pit on time, please.
No, the race is over, Joey. No reason to go around the track 3 or 4 more times. We understand it. We got it. You ran a race. Cynthia Freeland next.
spring. The sounds of birds in the trees, smell of fresh cut grass, new decks being built, and new deck builders from all over town heading for the Deck Supply. Experts say that when you add a deck to your home, you will recoup at a higher percentage of your investment at sale time than any other improvement you can make. More than a kitchen, even more than a bathroom. So do-it-yourselfers and professionals alike, head for the Deck Supply. Come pick out the look you want from one of the showrooms in Overland Park, Lee Summit, North Kansas City, or the newest location in St. Joe. The Deck Supply, for everything you need to build a better deck.
Easton Roofing. Commercial, residential, and gutters too. Call Easton Roofing, 913-257-5426. EastonRoofing.com. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
In America, the future belongs to everyone. That's why we make trucks like Ford F-Series. America's best-selling trucks for 46 years straight and counting. Made for performance and capability. Made to play hard and work smart, on and off-road. That's because they're built Ford tough. So be future ready with Ford F-Series, based on 1977 to 2022 calendar year total sales.
Want to know the best place to buy your electronics? It's B-Stock, located right here in Olathe. They have every electronic item you need: Apple products, Samsung and LG TVs, Sonos speakers. Just mention Sports Radio 810 and the B-Stock Red Tag auction, and you can get prices 20 to 30% lower than anywhere in town. Their auction starts at $9 every week, online at bstock.net, or stop in at the showroom in Olathe at 14680 South Fleming Road. bstock.net, your shop for open box and new and brand new electronics, TVs, computers, and more.
There's a race going on inside your body, and sometimes the bad guys, otherwise known as arthritis, get there first. That's when the joint pain kicks in.
Your healing process is just too slow and just can't catch up, and it needs just a little bit of help from QC Kinetics.
That's Dr. Daniel Zuckerman, a QC Kinetics medical director.
We all know that you can heal yourself. If you get a cut, it heals on its own. Your joints are no different. We can take the healing properties from your blood, concentrate them down, and put them in the spot that you need the help. It's amazing. Your body can heal itself.
At QC Kinetics, that's called regenerative medicine. No surgery or steroids, just lasting relief, the natural way.
The fact that we can treat them without surgery, but using their own body's natural healing process, without medications, without steroids, without surgery, it's just amazing.
Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 816-412-6299. That's 816-412-6299. 816-412-6299.
Do you struggle with pain, anxiety, sleep, or lack of energy? It's time for you to talk with CBD American Shaman's expert consultants about the power of high-quality hemp oil. And while supplies last, you can stop by your local CBD American Shaman location today to pick up the limited autographed Tim Grunhardt's book, View from the Center. While you're there, pick up some free samples, and they even have great products for your pets. CBD American Shaman. Life is better with the feather.
WHB Kansas City.
Celebrate Mother's Day with brunch or dinner at Rye. We will offer our full brunch and dinner menus all day. Take it easy on yourself and let us cook for you. Reservations are highly recommended for both brunch and dinner. Planning a home celebration, make Rye pastries part of the party. We're offering a selection of pies and cinnamon rolls available for pre-order to pick up on May 13th and 14th. Or spoil Mom by treating her to tea at Rye on the Plaza. Nibble on savory and sweet bites created by our talented kitchen team while sipping on Hugo loose leaf tea in our private dining room overlooking the Mill Creek Fountain. Make all your Mother's Day plans at RyeKC.com.
And now, on Sports Radio 810 Sports Center.
Are you looking for the perfect truck for tailgate season or a roomy SUV to drive your whole team to the game? Finance your dream car with an auto loan from First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Get in the driver's seat with an auto loan at ffbkc.com. First Federal Bank of Kansas City, because banking is personal. The Royals lost, but kept it interesting last night, falling 11-7 to the Baltimore Orioles. Bobby Witt Jr. and MJ Melendez both homered in the first inning, and Salvador Perez homered twice. However, during a 16-pitch at bat, Anthony Santander fouled off a pitch and his bat hit Perez's glove hand on the left middle finger knuckle, and Perez left that game with a left middle finger contusion, has been labeled day-to-day since. The X-rays came back negative, and the Royals are now 7-23. We flip back over to football as Cynthia Freeland of NFL Network joins us next in the zone to break down the Chiefs draft class and everything else that we saw as the NFL made their selections.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe and Drake. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer coming up at 1 o'clock, KSHB 41 Sports Director. We will catch up with Cynthia Freeland here very soon and talk with her about the NFL draft overall, but a focus on the Kansas City Chiefs draft and Felix Anudike-Uzomah drafting Rashee Rice and Wanya Morris. And hopefully these prospects can go from being boys to men. Don't shake your head at me, Drake.
Boo.
Don't you dare do that. Don't you dare.
Can I read you a suspicious tweet?
Okay.
Or an eye emoji tweet?
Okay.
Josina Anderson tweets, at the real Frank C. Hello,
That's
LOL. It's the entirety of the tweet.
Hello?
Hello, exclamation point, LOL. What do you think she means by that?
Is she mad that he is not returning her phone calls? So she figured she would publicly...
That's on the board for sure. Love that. Secondarily, you expect the free agents who are still out there to have a rejuvenated market now post-draft. They also wouldn't play into the compensatory formula.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Frank Clark's, getting some deals cooking. Maybe she knows something. Was weirdly publicly congratulating him on something she hasn't reported yet.
Yeah.
I have no further insight.
Who is this again?
Josina Anderson, who does end up having a good number of scoops.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if she's had any Frank Clark specific stuff in the recent past. But I would like to. I think even here's my scorching hot take.
Oh, take it.
News.
Hot.
Oh, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, definitely rotational player on this team. B.J. Thompson gonna fight for a roster spot.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see a defensive end who is over the age of 27 on this roster on opening day.
Is that Frank Clark? Could be Melvin Ingram,
Carlos Dunlap,
something like that.
If it's not literally one of those guys, it might as well be. That's sort of Calais Campbell was a fun one for the moments that he seemed like he was on the table, but I feel like there's still room for there to be the veteran there. But I don't know. They've got more numbers, even though they're youthful, than they have had in years past.
And here's where just a small little difference of depth versus last year and this year. You add in FAU and even B.J. Thompson, it's terrible news from Malik Herring and Joshua Kando.
Yes.
But think about that. Last year, Malik Herring and Joshua Kando were players that were active in games where they probably won't even be on the team this year. Not just inactive, probably won't even be on the team.
Also, we haven't talked about it since it happened. Our man Truman Jones, Harvard, undrafted free agent to the Chiefs.
How could we possibly have talked more about Truman Jones
before he was a Chief?
Before he was an actual Chief. That was like 2 weeks ago we had conversations about Truman Jones.
He's our guy.
Yes. Hopefully they've got the Truman Show, Part 2. Cynthia Freeland joins us now, NFL Network analytics expert here in the Zone with us. Cynthia, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am just fine. Have you been able to sleep, catch up, recharge since, Sunday morning?
I've actually been on my way interviewing some GMs for something pretty cool we're doing for NFL Plus. So the answer is no, but it's been a good reason why.
Okay. Can you give us any details or any other sort of cryptic, vague thoughts about the GM interviews for NFL Plus?
Yeah, basically we're just going through the players that they selected and showing film on the moment they fell in love with some of the picks that they made. So it's actually really cool. If you're an avid fan of any of the teams, and I'm really working hard to make Brett let me come and watch film with him, but if you're an avid fan of any of the teams, you're going to love it because it's a real cool look at I love this play, and not everyone's looking at this, but specialty, it's really, really fun. People, look, it's coaches talking about film, the thing that they love the most. So it's fun.
And no Brett Veach yet.
Not yet. I'm mentioning it because I want to put the pressure on it because I know he listens to me sometimes. So put the pressure on because I would love to sit down and watch film with Brett. It's an awesome experience, and I think everyone who's a Chiefs fan or even if just loves football in general would really love to see what he has to say.
I can't wait for this to come out because I will be. That's fascinating to sit down with the GM and say, all right, this is the part like, I think it would be fascinating because we've heard so many different stories and reporting on Brett Veach just being absolutely head over heels in love at first sight, soulmate to Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. And it was, I'm going to convince John Dorsey and the world that this guy has to be a Chief or I quit. You know, like you draft him like was it the Detroit Tigers? I'm sorry. And Derek Jeter or whatever. They went to the Yankees. It was like, I quit. You didn't draft him. I quit. Something along those lines. That would be fascinating to see, like, how he first came in love with Patrick Mahomes. But with this draft pick, this year, FAU and Rashee Rice and Wanya Morris, and why they not only drafted the second and third rounders, they traded up to get them. That's even more of like, this has to be our guy. We are that convicted that he is a different player than what we will get 5 spots, 6 spots, 7 spots later, that we're going to give up capital later on in the draft to get this guy. Brett Veach, answer the dang phone.
Come on, Brett, let's go. And by the way, it would be so fun to go back in time. You're so right. I'm going to have to sneak in, like, we can go talk about Patrick. I mean, you've already paid him, so clearly it worked out, right? Like, we know this is a case study in, like, multiple Super Bowl winning situations. So, you know, Brett, if you're listening, you can text me or call me anytime I'm here. Anyway, so
we'll put in a good word. I think we should be able to make this happen.
Text him right now.
Love it.
I'm just texting, what the F? That's it. That's all I'm going to text him is what the F? And he's like, dude, I'm working on a contract. I'm working on a contract with McKinnon. Leave me alone. Seriously, I've blocked you 4 times. I've told you to stop texting me. The one at 3 o'clock in the morning was weird. Okay? You didn't have to text me from the tree outside my house. Stop it, Jason. Okay? Cynthia Freeland is our guest. Okay, so let's talk about who the Chiefs come away with. The overall draft haul, and we'll see what happens with the Saturday picks. But ultimately, people pay a lot of attention to the first, second, third rounders that they drafted. So, what do you think of the Chiefs draft and who they came away with, and especially those Thursday and Friday picks?
Well, look, I guess I was kind of under the impression that, you know, look, like, I know that Brett's not going to take a bad deal, but I guess I thought someone was going to come up and want to snag. You know, Joey Porter Jr., I know that the Steelers took him with the very next pick, but, you know, there is some validity to having a corner in the first round and saving that money. But regardless, I thought someone might come up for a quarterback just because we'd only seen 3, and there was kind of consensus 4, but it didn't happen. So, I think prioritizing really high-value positions is always a smart strategy for a team that had 9 rookies play in the Super Bowl. So let's be honest, like, this was a really smart, like, I feel like it would be fun to sit with Brett and be like, how many plans did you have? Because you're picking at 31, and which would have presumably been 32 because of the Dolphins. Like, you have the last pick of the first round. Like, you don't know how this thing's going to fall, so you have to be really adaptive and really malleable to whatever the board gives you. So being able to go, like, rusher, like, really trying to restock the shelves in those positions that it's really keen to put with, like, George Karlaftis and Chris Jones. Like, it'll be interesting to see how they all kind of fit in this bag situation. But I think it was a great draft. And if you do it like they're not going to show up in anyone's, like, you know, most changed teams based on the draft. When you're picking at 31, it's just, like, I don't think that could happen, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. But what I do kind of look at is like a, you know, return on investment based on the pick, right? Like, so, you know, you have to do a better job at 1 or 2 or 3 than you do at 31. And I think that the haul that they got, given where they were picking, was really, really insightful, helpful, and really addresses some needs.
Yeah, and look, it's Philadelphia's been talked about a lot, and Philadelphia gets, you know, an extra, you know, they get the first rounder by trading back. And then, you know, get it from already having that first rounder, Philadelphia. So they've got those things that are working in their favor. So they had 2 first-round draft picks already, and then trade up to number 9 and get Jalen Carter. And then Nolan Smith is there in their lap. So when you're talking about most changed teams, right, as you're saying, like, there are going to be other teams that hit the top 5, maybe even the top 10 than the Chiefs. But the trading part, I think, is interesting because I like Brett Veach in the aspect that I find him to be pretty candid when he's talking about things. In his post-press conference on Monday, he said, look, there were pockets of players and 18 to 23 that we were talking with teams to trade up But, it became a little too expensive. We liked some other players later on that we wanted to have some of those lottery tickets, and we really liked FAU. But 18 to 23, there was a group of players there, that we were looking at and talking to teams. And then, a little bit later on, it's, 25 to 28, and you've got some teams that really weren't interested. There was a small jump. You said Buffalo and Jacksonville, a small one there, but, teams weren't really, interested in trading. And then also talking with the Raiders and I believe the Titans in trading back at 31. All of those conversations were taking place, and it's fascinating to how much time they probably spent on prospective trades to then just simply take the pick number 31 with Felix and Udike Uzama. But it is obvious that, Brett Veach is saying, like, there were players that went before we grabbed FAU that we were wanting to trade up and get. That sounds like wide receiver, right? Because no wide receiver was off the board. And when he says 18 to 23, well, 23 is when Jordan Addison went. And that was the end of the wide receiver run. It feels like wide receiver was the player they wanted to go up and get. And if that meant spending a first and a third, or maybe even a first and a second, it was certainly something to discuss, but maybe a little too rich for them giving up a couple of players to get one.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the answer is, like I said, they had plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D. Mm-hmm. And unlike some other teams, I just think, I don't know how many their plans there actually were, but, a number of plans that they felt were equally as valuable. And it's the sum of the parts. It's the whole being more than the sum of the parts, not necessarily like each part individually. So I think if you're kind of deciphering what Brett was saying, and he actually said it pretty well, but it's like without saying like we rated this guy 1 or 2 or 3. I think what they were really saying is like, okay, well, we like this guy more than this guy, but not for the price of more than this.
Yeah.
Right. So. It's a really smart way of doing it. And if we had those like discrete numbers, right? Like we like Jordan Addison if we only had to give up a 5th round, sure. But do you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what that number is, but like
sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
No. I just want to say it's probably pretty prescribed for them ahead of time, so they don't get like in the heat of the moment, they don't get razzled with like some sort of like, oh, God, that sounds okay, whatever. I think they've planned it all out ahead of time, and we're really, like, very, cost-benefit analysis right on site about that.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting, but I was going to give, like, I was going to give, like, names to just the draft picks so we know who they drafted. So let's say, in theory, they're sitting there at 31. If they move up to, say, 21, maybe they've got to give up pick number 95 at that time, and maybe another one later on is, let's say it's Zay Flowers. Is Zay Flowers worth Wanya Morris and Keandre Coburn? So Zay Flowers is Rashee Rice, Wanya Morris, and Keandre Coburn worth more to you than just Zay Flowers? And that's what you have to analyze.
Right.
So.
Or like, the opportunity, maybe on some level, it's like, 6th round pick, meaning, they do pretty well in those later round picks. So it's like, we believe we have an edge and our needs don't dictate what we think will be on the board. So we think we'll have a good pick in the 6th. So, even if it's a range of people, it doesn't necessarily even need to be you know what I mean? Like, it's like Felix better than, what this range of people we think will be around in X and Y.
And he even said that. He's like, look, there were people we were talking about trading back, and he said, but what we ran into is if we traded back, we would probably take some of those assets we gained to just move up and get a player like Felix. So
exactly.
So do you just simply say, and he had the line, don't get too cute. It's like,
exactly.
We like them, let's take them, and now we'll move on to the second round, reassess our board tonight, see what we have, and other players that we like. You mocked the Chiefs with FAU. So Felix, and you didn't mock them like making fun of them, but your mock draft had FAU to the Chiefs. What did you like about that fit beforehand, and what do you think specifically of Udike Uzama in a Chiefs uniform?
Well, listen, I'm going to have to get more confident saying it because I prefer saying FAU, but because when you play on the Chiefs, you're going to play. So, okay, I'm going to have to just stand in the mirror and just like keep saying it over and over and over again. But look, what I really like is the opportunity for the pressure front to look a little different. The thing about the AFC in general, just, if the Chiefs could move to the NFC, I don't even know if I would need to say this quite as strongly, but the reality is pressure can't look the same every single season. It has to be fresh and unique and come in different ways and be brought out with different principles and different timing. Because what's happening is all of the good quarterbacks tend to be in the AFC, and ultimately what you're doing, and that's no shade to Jalen Hurts. It's hyperbole. There's like one or two good quarterbacks in the NFC, but the reality is it's on film now. So with a guy like Steve Spagnuolo who has a defense who each and every single week the players get stronger. It may be like more complicated to initially learn, but at the end of the day, like it becomes more and more effective. Where pressure comes from, and even the ability to make a quarterback like a little bit confused is so important, that tiny little fraction of time, because so much more important in the AFC. So I really like the opportunity for a new type of space and a new potential front in addition to what George Karlaftis brought last season and what they've already have established there. So I thought that was an excellent fit given his ability. His college film showed a nice burst, like you can't teach that, right? That first speed right off the line of scrimmage. And it seemed like, from what I could tell, that he got better as the season went on as well, which would be a good strategic fit for a smart defense like Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about pressure looking the same from year to year. We discussed, I think it was Thursday before the draft, and we were sort of talking like, okay, so what if you trade back and let's say a B.J. Ojulari is there? And it's like, well, that's not really a Spags-type defensive end. Well, that's fine, but is he a player that right away can put pressure on the quarterback, but different, right, but in different way than what you have already? And we went back to the 2018 team for the Chiefs when they had a lot of sacks. They couldn't stop the pass if they didn't get to the quarterback, but they got to the quarterback a lot because you had Justin Houston that could sort of collapse the pocket and had different moves. You had Dee Ford, who was fast around the end, so you made the quarterback sort of step up, and you had Chris Jones that wrecked the interior pocket. So you had three levels. Okay, well, if he brings speed from the outside, Karlaftis is the one that's sort of collapsing with his strength, and we know Chris Jones and now Omenihu, what they can do on the inside. And we were talking about specifically with, like, let's say you trade back and you can't get Felix or whatever, or anybody that's there, you would take just a guy that's only like mainly a pass rush specialist. But that's what I like about Felix is when you say pressure can't look the same every year, that now they throw in a guy who is athletic with a burst and has really good bend already, that if he can get around the tackle and offer that sort of, you can't just simply take a step back and gain depth in the pocket if you're a quarterback. And on the other side is Karlaftis, who we know is pretty strong. And now you got Jones and Omenihu up the middle. Yeah, it's a pretty formidable force to get after a quarterback and not have to blitz, which we know Spags likes to do.
Exactly. So I think it's a really nice fit. And the good news about Spags is that you have a lot of, like, even some of his Giants, it's like some of the Giants film where it's like, okay, well, we've got Tuck and we've got JPP and we've got, and the way that they kind of rotated people through and found a spot for them, even when it was like, it seems like they kept doubling down at that position. And it's good because that's actually very, very important. You saw actually one of the things I remember ahead of the Super Bowl that we talked about was that the Eagles' defensive front rotating so much was actually like a really nice strong point for that team. And now you've got the Chiefs in a situation to be able to have a different look than last season, but also maybe add some rotational depth and maybe make things look a little different, maybe even week to week. So it seems like it's getting more modern, but with the same principles as we've seen Spags clearly be very successful with year in and year out.
Visiting with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. Rashee Rice, they were pretty convicted in him being the best player available in sort of pockets and groups, and maybe the last type of player that they can go up and get like that. They traded up, and they go and give up a fourth-rounder, which was part of the Tyreek Hill trade, that fourth-rounder. So they used their second and part of the Tyreek Hill to go get Rashee Rice. What do you think of him as a receiver? It feels like it's a pretty mixed bag on him as a prospect and what he can do in the NFL.
Well, I mean, look, life's about mixed bag at what position? Like, mixed bag at, draft position. Like, if you would have drafted him in the first round or something, that's a little different. But what do you expect here? That guy was only in the end zone. Like, hello, end zone? That was all he did was score touchdowns. So, I mean, okay, I get it. The level of competition, we understand. And I know that some people are like, well, he's the next Emmanuel Sanders. No, it's somewhere in between. And the reality is we saw last season that one of the reasons that the Chiefs were able to stay successful, even though they didn't have Tyreek Hill, was a different alignment of receivers. So Travis Kelce lined up in different spots last year than we had seen him do in previous seasons. And now what you're doing is you're giving yourself all of these different options. And if he doesn't turn out to be like this top-end amazing guy, but only is like situationally helpful, that is still a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
what, like, it's not like he's going to a team that's so wide receiver depleted that you're going to need him day one to understand all the principles of Andy Reid defense or offense and get out there and score. No. This guy, you're going to say, all right, score me a touchdown right here because you know how to get open in space, and this is how we're going to scheme you open. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
and
let's do that, right?
and his ability just to go up and get the football is unlike anybody else in the draft. It's
Exactly.
ridiculous, and he just simply comes down with the football more times than not. And it was lower level competition, and I do think it's a concern when somebody has some issues gaining separation against lower levels of competition. But against Maryland, with two cornerbacks that were drafted, one a first rounder, number 24 overall, and Jacorian Bennett went in the fourth round to the Raiders. He had 11 receptions for 193 yards, and he was the only offense for SMU in that game because, you know, I was bored and I'm a dork, and I went and watched that game the other night just to see what he looked like. Now, for context, Deonte Banks only guarded him, I think, on 3 routes because I was just seeing what it looked like with number 3 versus number 11. He was barely on him because they put Deonte Banks on the right side of the defense, and Rashee Rice plays the right side of the offense. So they were opposite sides a lot. But I thought it was interesting that you said Deonte Banks is more of a James Bradbury type, kind of comped him to that. And I thought it was great because out of those 3 reps where Deonte Banks was guarding Rashee Rice, who people think can fill in for Juju, one of those was a pass interference penalty. James Bradbury, holding Juju, and now you got Deonte Banks and Rashee Rice. That's a great tie-in, Cynthia.
I love it. It's so poetic. It works just so perfectly.
Absolutely, yeah. So level of competition, certainly, but 11 receptions, 193 yards when you've got 2 cornerbacks on the field that are going to be drafted in the first 4 rounds of the draft. I think you can add in some context to level of competition. Real quick, Sky Moore is somebody that people are wondering how much of a step forward he can take this year from year 1 to year 2. Is there an analytical expectation from rookie to sophomores at certain positions, rookies to second years at certain positions, like a wide receiver? Because Andy Reid's offense, it's hard for rookies to make an impact, and I don't think there should be much expectation for Rashee Rice to be 50 receptions, 700 yards or anything. But what would be, if there is sort of an expected step up from rookie to second year for a guy like Sky Moore?
Well, I think the reality is if we see him run cleaner routes, it'll be better, right? I think sometimes the maybe it was like learning the offense or figuring out where he should be in space. I think he's going to get a better awareness of where he should be spatially, and that will do nothing but create more opportunities for him to catch the ball. Like, last season, again, by the way, there was a lot of things that were moving pieces last season, the beginning of last season, right? No Tyreek Hill meant a lot of changes. We just talked about those, which means also, like, the rest of the offense was kind of learning these changes too. It was a completely changed wide receiving core. So it was, almost completely changed wide receiving core. So you got a lot of moving pieces. Now you get, really good. All right, this is where I'm supposed to be in this space. Okay, this is where I'm supposed to be on this play. This is what this defense looks like. It's very hard when a defense has special tricks up their sleeves when they play Patrick Mahomes. It's not like they're sitting there being like, let's just make this guy into a pocket passer and we're just gonna see what happens.
It's interesting.
So it's not. So you have a lot of things that are added variables that not everyone has to deal with. So at the same time, you'll see the route running will be crisper. I mean, I'm assuming here that he's doing all his homework and crossing all his T's and dotting all of his I's. It seems like it, but I think what you'll see a lot of improvement in terms of reliability, and it may not necessarily even turn into receptions, but it will turn into being a nuisance for other defenses that they have to deal with, and therefore create more space for others.
And we'll see. Hopefully that is the case. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. Brett, answer the dang phone, Brett Veach, okay?
Seriously, Brett, come on.
Yeah, Chiefs fans, I want to hear about this. I want to hear about this project that's going on at NFL Plus. That's going to be great. Cynthia, thank you for the time. We'll put in a good word
Always.
as well to Brad Veach.
You got it.
We'll see. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and look forward to talk soon. There's Cynthia Freeland, great stuff from her, NFL Network analytics expert. And the project at NFL Plus that she's working on is sitting down with some GMs across the league and going through the draft picks that they had and going through film that they have of when they first sort of found themselves highlighting, spotlighting, and putting the player in, identifying a player that this is somebody that you want to bring into your team and be convicted to go and spend a first-round draft pick on or trade up in the second round for Rashee Rice. You're that convicted and he's the guy. You can't wait till 63. You got to move up 8 spots and get him because the risk of losing him, you can't do it. Can't do. The reward is better than the risk of losing a draft pick later on. So you got to go and get him. That would be awesome to hear from different GMs to go through and break some of that stuff down. She hasn't got a hold of Brett Veach yet. I mean, what's he doing right now? Oh, Jerick McKinnon.
I think today was his birthday too, so maybe he's giving Jerick McKinnon a second birthday present.
McKinnon's birthday is today?
I think that's right.
Well,
I think
happy
that's what the
birthday,
Chiefs
Jet.
tweeted. I love projects like that, and it seems to me that it would only be good for the fan base to get to go step by step alongside Brett Veach in this circumstance to really understand why they moved up for Rashee Rice. And I just think that the Chiefs and most NFL teams, to be fair, would sooner have their toenails pulled out than tell you why they like a player, even after he's already on the team.
Yeah. But isn't Brett Veach typically pretty candid in general?
Once they have guys,
I don't think before the draft he's going to go, look, Rashee Rice in the second round, we're going to do what we can. If he's there, even in the 50s, we're going to go get this guy. He's a difference maker for us. Here's why we love him. But now he's on your team. You know what happened. Why?
I'll go so far as to say in like a totally fictional scenario that I don't, would Brett Veach just say that he loved a couple of, to that point, franchise offensive tackles like 2 hours before releasing both of them? Totally fictional scenario, but I bet he would. I bet he would.
It's totally weird. Yeah, I mean, that's
cat's out of the bag now. This is your draft class.
That's right. Yes.
Tell Cynthia I like Felix so much.
It's not like going to go, hey, Rashee Rice, what did you like about him? Well, we like that we're going to use him in this specific package with the Chiefs coming up this year, and we've got a play called Frito Pie. That's going to be just because it's not corn dog and it's not wasp. It's Rosebud.
Oh, did you want to know when Andy Reid's going to retire? Because he told me. I know, actually.
Yes.
I can give you the day and date.
This is the play design that we're going to break out probably against the Bengals is what we're thinking, but it's going to be specifically to Rashee Rice. We're very excited about this, but don't put this out there.
Brett, what do you like about your wife? Well, she does a lot of things well. I had seen some good film, heard a few good things.
Areas of improvement?
Really feel like she brings a lot to the household.
There are some things that certainly she could do better. She can improve on. I'm just never going to get into that. But yes, but the film says that it's there, that that. And she's coachable.
Met with her a few times. Really liked what we heard.
She's been working out down in Dallas with Patrick. What? Damn it. Again? All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
He's a former coach with 2 sons who played professional basketball. Satch Sullinger's a competitive individual, but his golf game was suffering because of painful joints.
Right, that's real important, the golf game. Right, as we get older, we create these bad habits because we're relegated to hit a certain way.
QC Kinetics used regenerative treatments, all natural healing properties from Satch's own body, to restore those damaged joints and get his golf game back on track.
QC Kinetics Regenerative Medicine is regenerating me, all natural, and that's what I'm about. I'm going to tell everybody why I'm better.
Oh, and by the way, looks like the competitive Satch is back.
We're all in the same boat, and I'm getting better, and I'm watching them stay old.
Go to QCkinetics.com. Get relief and your game back. Call for your complimentary consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 816-4...
We continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, The Zone, presented by Google Fiber. Thank you to Cynthia Freeland. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get into the conversation about the size of FAU's butt.
Great point.
We talked with Joe Klanderman on Monday about the size of FAU's butt. Said that it was the biggest butt he had ever seen when he got to campus after COVID shut down. When he went from 220 to like 250, 255, and just had a huge backside. Because we've had the conversation with Cynthia about the big butts that translate with offensive linemen, and how much is a big butt translate for edge rushers.
I can't remember. Somebody was telling the story on the Athletic Football Show, which is shocking. I was listening to that.
Really?
I think there was an ESPN Daily episode about this a while back as well, where one of the Athletic Football Show guys who was on that episode as like an intern for whatever team they're working for literally had a job at the combine to make sure they were getting a seat where they could get the best angle possible of the prospects' butts.
What?
For an extra like 5 seconds of visibility of the prospect's butt. It seems like it all runs through the butt.
Why?
Because that was what they're really evaluating. That's the X factor. That's the X factor. I'll work on it. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Wow. It's interesting. Okay. Well, no, I didn't. I know that she had done a study on that and had sort of translated the connection between that and good offensive line play versus those that may not have as much sand.
Yeah.
Aren't as good.
I think it might be Belichick, who is famously a big butt guy.
Fitzgerald had maybe the best butt.
Yes, that's a different category, though.
Yeah,
Are we going
in
for
football?
You know,
maybe that's what made
shapeliest?
maybe that's what made him such a great receiver.
Be a better tight end.
We aren't actually joking. This is
no. Everything here has been.
This was like Cynthia's senior thesis from graduating from analytics college.
That's it's actually the College of
She went to,
Analytics.
MIT. It's ridiculous how smart she is. She's talking with us. But it was the size of offensive linemen's rear end and the connection between being good at what they do, and
there is a real correlation.
The correlation was absolutely there, and it makes sense that in the Athletic Football Show, there's just other points of data that no, we need to sort of check this part of it out because there is an interesting correlation there. We went through an exercise in the first hour that we looked at Arif Hassan's consensus big board. We talked about this yesterday in looking at reaches and steals and what they typically end up being in their NFL career. If steals end up being steals, that you got a guy in the second round and he's actually playing like a top 15 pick, that's crazy. You went up and grabbed that guy at 40 and everybody had him in the third round and, now he's just going to be a total bust. Like what actually happens with that? In general, steals typically play at the level of their expected draft pick. So Nolan Smith was a consensus 18th overall prospect. He went 30th to the Eagles. The view is that, of this study, is that Nolan Smith will more than likely play like the 30th pick in the draft, not the 18th pick in the draft, that you just got crazy value there. Whereas when it's a reach, when you grab somebody 20, 30 spots ahead of where the consensus big board is, when you're talking about 70, 80 different big boards that are out there, that player typically does not perform to the level of expected value of that draft pick. So not worth the reach, and certainly if you're trading up, it makes it even worse because you're giving up a draft pick. So we looked at that in relation to the Chiefs because a lot of the conversation around the Chiefs and the draft grades has been where they drafted players. Like, okay, so Felix, I'm fine with the pick. I thought it was a little too early for Felix and Udike-Uzomah, but I understand why you take him there at 31. Well, because that's easy to say if you're not the GM. If you're not the GM, you can go, Felix was my 43rd best player, and they took him at 31. Well, they might be looking at it and going, well, Felix right now is the best player we have. We're not taking Osiris Torrance,
right,
who you have graded ahead of Felix and Udike-Uzomah. We're not taking that guy. We're not taking, John Michael, Schmitz or whatever his name is, the center from Minnesota, who you have graded ahead of Felix and Udike-Uzomah, which, by the way, both those guys are ranked ahead of FAU on the consensus big board. We're not taking them. So that has to be taken into account. Will Levis, you have ranked ahead of FAU. We're not taking him. So there's three. I had him at 42. Well, now we're sitting at 38.
Right.
All right. And we can get into some other ones as well. Like Will McDonald was taken and Anton Harrison was gone. And so are you going to take Keely Ringo? Well, we didn't have him ranked as high as you. So now we're looking at saying Felix was sort of 33, 34. I think, what did Brett say, 28 to 34, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Around 28 to 34 is where they had Felix sort of fitting in. They got him at 31, right around where that pocket was for him. Easy to say after the fact.
Right.
But he's been pretty candid that I believe him in that when he says, look, we had him like 28 to 34. If we trade back to 38 or 41, we might be using resources to go up and get somebody who might be there at 36 when we had him at 34. So let's just stay where we are and take somebody that we think also could have been 28, right? Here's this range for him. So a lot of draft grades, are based on, well, they reached here. Well, the Eagles got a steal in Nolan Smith. Sure, they did. And I think if the Chiefs had lost to the Eagles, the Chiefs might have got a steal with Nolan Smith at number 30. We might be talking about Nolan Smith. How was he there for the Chiefs at number 30? But guess what? They've got a beautiful, shiny Lombardi trophy that was up on stage, and that's why they didn't get Nolan Smith, is because they lost to the Eagles. The Eagles' door prize of walking out, consolation prize, was Nolan Smith. Here's your NFC Championship trophy and Nolan Smith. Chiefs, here's your Lamar Hunt trophy and your Lombardi trophy. And FAU. Yeah, I'll take that trade. I'll take Lombardi plus FAU over Nolan Smith. That's a good exchange that I'll take every single time. So people complaining about, well, Brett Veach didn't move up and get this guy. That's what happens when you're picking at the end of the round. It's the success tax that happens. You can't just waste your whole draft to go up and get a receiver because they fell to 20. Well, let's trade the second and third round pick to go get this guy now. Well, Brett, why did you go up against Zay Flowers? Well, because is Zay Flowers by himself better than Rashee Rice, Wanya Morris, and Keandre Coburn?
Right.
That's the actual evaluation that's taking place behind the scenes in the war room. And if he's going to be better than that, he damn sure better be really good, Zay Flowers. And if Rashee Rice is like 70% Zay, but you get a tackle that maybe starts above Niang, and you get somebody that's a two-down lineman that can maybe take the spot of Derek Nottie maybe halfway through the season, because Nottie is on the back end of his career, and he wasn't very good last year, and you'd like to have that replacement, and hopefully Coburn can be that. Well, I'll take that package of those three guys over Zay Flowers.
And I think to some extent
right now.
Sure.
We'll see. It may be a mistake.
And I really think when you have to account for how expensive it is to move up in the first round, like if you even wanted to have a different conversation about value and just lop it off at 31, because we have heard every bit of logic as to the Chiefs looking to move up, trying to, what the cost would have been and all of that.
And looking to move back,
And also looking to move back. And I think that Brett Veach has passed the test on, hey, can you tell us your process as to why you ended up making a selection at 31? I wasn't like losing my mind in the moment when they drafted him, but I did really want to know, hey, how did you end up here? He's given us all that. I think it would have been really cost prohibitive to move up, or it would have been not great value to move back. They took the best player on the board at a valuable position there at 31. I've lost 0 seconds of sleep over Felix Anudike-Uzomah. I liked the pick at the time.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it in the greater context. In the value everywhere else, it both gets more unpredictable because you have to know not just where the consensus is, but if any team, we talk about, a quote-unquote reach can be defined by just one team having a guy way higher on their board, it looks like a reach, that sets it off, as opposed to a quote-unquote steal becomes when lots of guys have dropped on a guy. If the Chiefs were the only team with Rashee Rice as the 55th best player or the guy at value at 55, then they overpaid. If they did have intel on what the rest of the receiving depth chart was going to look like from that point on, they didn't overpay to go get him. They paid the premium that it needed to be to go get Rashee Rice. Now, again, could they have waited it out for one of the Tennessee guys? Could they have played the receiver game sometime in day 3? Yeah, absolutely. But that, to me, is where those margins become really interesting. What does it cost to move up? And did you cost yourself a shot at this year's Jalen Watson because you couldn't stop trading picks away to go get Rashee Rice? That's the other side of the game, right? You say, well, is FAU and Rashee Rice worth Zay Flowers and just making it B.J. Thompson being the only end you get out of the draft? There's also the inverse of that. Could you have had Cedric Tillman and someone in the mid day 3 that would have ultimately made your team better. But it is genuinely kind of unknowable, and yet I think the Chiefs' process has passed my test.
How the first round goes, I think, also shapes opinion, because the fact that Myles Murphy and Nolan Smith were there 2 picks away, that you just said, either one of those guys, that, I guess it was Bengals and then Saints, and the Saints took Brian Brissy, which I'd have been perfectly fine with him. I'd have been perfectly fine with it was like a fantasy draft. There are 3 guys that I would take any of them, and I am 4 spots away. So I need somebody to pass on them. And they took Murphy and Brissy and then Nolan Smith right before the Chiefs. But if I paint a scenario where the Detroit Lions take Nolan Smith instead of Jack Campbell, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take Myles Murphy, right? And you're sitting there at number 31, and Murphy and Nolan Smith have been off the board for a while. Are you hoping and praying and going, please, Felix, be there? Oh, nobody take Felix. Nobody take Felix. Oh, okay, he's there. They got Felix at number 31. I think the way that it unfolded shaped, okay, you came away with Felix, which is good, but you were 1 spot away from Nolan Smith or 2 spots away from Myles Murphy. Oh, it was right there. Felix is good. It's a great story. Hometown kid. He's going to be a good pass rusher. I think if things would have gone to form, it might be a different feel around. And I think it was widely, applauded. And certainly there at the draft, there was huge ovation when they announced FAU. But I wonder then the aftermath of, as it settles in, are you more okay with Felix if Nolan Smith and Myles Murphy weren't right there within reaching distance where you can almost taste it? What's Nolan Smith going to look like in a Chiefs uniform?
I think that's a great take, because you can even expand it to Will McDonald, who went 15 or something. He went 15 to the Jets, but he just didn't make a lot of sense for what the Chiefs typically do. Even more so, say Felix is a little bit of an outlier for Spags. Will McDonald would have been an enormous outlier for Spags, and then also BJ Ojulari goes early in the second, would have also been an outlier. Was on the board when the Chiefs were there at 31. But I absolutely think if those previous picks would have been that combination of guys, you're talking about Kalijah Cansey, Jack Campbell, Will McDonald, guys who all went much higher, instead of it just being the Lucy with the football in front of Charlie Brown, is here's Myles Murphy, here's Nolan Smith. Whoop!
Gotcha.
I do think you'd be sitting there going, all right, well, boy, they better hope that nobody in front of them. Oh, if the damn Eagles take Felix, I'm gonna be so mad.
Eagles better not take FAU.
I do absolutely think that would have been part of it.
Yeah, and clearly the Chiefs had a certain value on him, because we know the Raiders were trying to trade up for 31 from 38. The Titans were trying to get back to in the first round. Maybe that was to 30, maybe that was to 31. But once Nolan Smith was there at 30, I doubt the Eagles would have been like, yeah, let's wheel and deal here, which would have been great, because then the Chiefs would have had their pick of Nolan Smith or FAU. Now imagine the reaction if they chose FAU over Nolan Smith.
Which I think might have been on the table.
Certainly. Could have. Is Hassan Reddick a guy that really fits what the Chiefs want to do? Because that's the comp. I like Hassan Reddick for 3 years now.
I think you should.
But whatever. You know what he didn't do? Win a Super Bowl.
Take that.
Hassan did not do that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling more zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 W.
We continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The match has been announced. It'll be June 29th at 5:30 from the Wynn Golf Club on TNT. The 12-hole event, the match. There are no golfers involved, so take that, Phil and Tiger. It will be the Chiefs v. Golden State. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce taking on Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. The Splash Brothers versus the... I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
In the break, I said Smash Brothers. I don't know what that even means. That's just a football thing. I think that the part of it...
Cash Brothers.
Ooh, I like Cash Brothers.
Yeah.
The part of it that I kind of like just from a matchup perspective is how many times have you heard Patrick Mahomes and the modern Chiefs compared to specifically Steph and the modern Warriors?
Yeah.
Like, it's aesthetically kind of a cool fit, kind of a cool pair of duos. I don't know that Steph and Klay kind of like hang out like Mahomes and Kelce seem to. I'm sure. I mean, they obviously spend a significant amount of time together, but I don't think I've seen them in a like duos competition this way. We see Mahomes and Kelce at American Royal or at American Century. So I also don't know. Have we figured out if Travis Kelce's good at golf? I feel
don't
like
think
he's
he is.
fun at golf.
He's
You know what I mean?
Give me Steph and Klay. I mean, Steph is really good at golf, like really good at golf, and we know that. We see that in the American Century Championship in Tahoe. He's freaking good. He's trying to win the whole thing.
I'm gonna go
Mahomes
to the
and Kelce are
leaderboards
trying to enjoy themselves. I don't know about Klay.
I don't either.
If Clay's any good at golf.
His
family is pretty freaking athletic when he's got a brother that's hitting home runs and he and his dad are dunking on everybody.
Now that you say
and
that,
shooting threes.
I kind of feel like I am now envisioning Klay having played golf at some sort of genuinely competitive level that I'm gonna attempt to figure out here. I don't think we have lines on this on DraftKings yet, but it's coming. We're gonna get lines on this.
Could it be the?
We need to properly scout.
Could it be the Splash Brothers versus the Brash Brothers?
No.
Okay. I'm just asking.
So Steph tied for 16th
Let's move on.
at the American Century last year with a 41, and that's his total round.
That can't be the.
Hold on, that's just one round.
Here's an article from 2016 that says Klay Thompson's handicap is 15.
Well,
where am I
his
finding-
handicap's going to be going up against 15. Damn right. No, I'll put. My
And that's
money
not
on.
strokes. So the American Century is a guy. I don't remember
Yeah, they
what
should
the
have the
exact
final leaderboard,
scoring
right?
is.
It's Stableford.
But
So
here I've got
it's,
Mahomes.
you get the most points wins.
Right,
in this
Mahomes
one.
had 3. Steph had whatever I said a second ago.
41.
41. Del Curry had 39. They're back to back.
Yeah. He's also better at his dad at golf.
Travis Kelce had minus 11.
Yeah. They combined for minus 8.
And Klay wasn't there, so...
Then Klay would have to combine for minus 48. Klay would have to go minus 49. Or no, minus... Yeah. It'd have to be minus 49 just to tie. It's an interesting pairing. It's an entertaining pairing, but for competitiveness between the two groups...
Can we split the teams? What if it's Kelce and Steph versus Mahomes and Klay?
That'd be a good one. That might be closer.
It says Mahomes and Kelce versus Curry and Klay.
Yeah. It's going to be rough.
You know what? Mahomes and Kelce are going to win the tailgate. They're going to win the
Yeah.
after party.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what really matters.
They'll be smashing beers. It'll be the Smash Brothers.
I'm good
versus
with
the
that.
Splash Brothers.
The NASCAR Cup Series.
Here they come. Green flag is in the air.
Kicks off a monster month of May.
We've got a car in the wall. Oh, Bubba gets turned in the face of the field. Truex gets clobbered. Allmendinger gets clobbered.
At Kansas Speedway.
He was out front when the caution flag flew, and Kyle Busch has scored the win.
It's the Advent Health 400.
Your home for NASCAR. Sports Radio 810. WHB.
Need a new roof? No problem. Just need some roofing repairs? They can do that too. Or maybe it's just a gutter that's clogged or a gutter that's no longer attached to your house. There's only one company to call. Pyramid, 816-966-1101 or pyramidroofingkc.com.
For great views, go to Kansas. For unforgettable views of action-packed racing, go to Kansas Speedway. With a premier facility that gives fans what they want, how they want to see it. And with a Saturday doubleheader, a Sunday Cup Series race, and great deals on kids' tickets, the views will get better all weekend long. NASCAR weekend at Kansas Speedway, May 6th and 7th. Get your tickets today at kansasspeedway.com.
WHB Kansas City.
Guys, as the male body ages, testosterone levels steadily decline, and your body's become increasingly unable to produce healthy levels of the primary male hormone testosterone. At Regain Functional Medicine, we can help you regain your quality of life with testosterone replacement therapy. TRT improves brain function, sleep cycles, heart health, performance, and overall body composition so you can feel better, function better, move better, and look better. Visit us today at ifeelmuchbetter.com. Regain Functional Medicine, with locations in Lawrence and Leawood. Regain is better.
Hey, Kansas City, are you tired of worrying about our extreme weather taking a toll on your roof? Then look no further than JPA Roofing. At JPA Roofing, they treat you like family. 816-331-6219. That's 816-331-6219.
Join us for the 50th anniversary of the Hospital Hill Run Saturday, June 3rd. The half marathon 10K and 5K all start at 7 a.m. at Crown Center. All participants will receive a 50th anniversary commemorative jacket and medal. Conquer the hill and enjoy a fun post-race celebration with live band Retroactive, beverages compliments of Dogfish Head and Truly Hard Seltzer, and delicious burn and barbecue breakfast burritos. Register at hospitalhillrun.com.
What if you could combine the power of people and technology so when you're buying or selling your home, you have the best resources saving you time and money? Well, you can with the Brimacombe & Cohen team, founding partners of Compass Realty. Brimacombe & Cohen and Compass Realty are the only Kansas City company who have the tools to make your largest transactions stress-free. Want to learn more about Compass Concierge and the special...
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Briscoe, Drake, Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, hanging out with us here for the final hour of the show. Hi, Mick.
What's up, guys?
Hi, Mick.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Good. It's good to be seen.
It's good to have you here.
You ever thought about like having a kind of like a talk show set up, like a nighttime talk show set up where you have the desk and I can just sit on a couch or a chair, and then like Josh is kind of like the Ed McMahon. He's on the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that.
That would be crazy. That's wacky. That's wild, man. That would be crazy.
I see myself as more of a Guillermo type
Mm-hmm.
to Jason's Kimmel. I think I could do that.
Yeah.
See me out there. I'll offer people tequila shots or whatever.
I like the guy with Fallon. They don't use him enough.
Oh, yeah, the guy that just stands up in front of the microphone.
Yes, he's really funny.
Yeah.
What channel is?
It's NBC. I watch a lot of Fallon, and I'll be watching a lot of reruns of Fallon here for a while because the writers are striking.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about that yesterday. Were you watching some of the videos that they put out from some of the late night that Conan?
Yeah,
I had forgot all about.
I didn't know any of this.
Some of the Conan antics that he was doing because they had no writers.
No.
Like he had a bit every day where he was trying to break the record for how long his ring could spin on the desk.
He would just spin it.
And they would have the drum roll. He's like, okay, ready? And they get a stopwatch and you spin it. And the watch would be going on and it would just zoom in on the ring spinning.
Like 40 seconds.
He was looking for like 41 was the record, but then it was like 30. He's like, this is a good one. And it went for so long and they had the drum roll and everything, the band in the background. And it finally stops. He's like, what was it? And the producer, who was, I'm wondering if like she's in that spot, that maybe not typically in that spot. And she was like, it's 36 seconds. What? No! Don't sound too enthused. 36 seconds? That was so good. And then the next night he tried to break the record again. And it's like, because he was like, what if we just sat here and did this? Believe me, we've got time.
That was the other part of it that I remembered from one of those clips was somebody saying, all right, so let's really take some time and talk about the technique that went into this. Let's really go ahead and stretch our legs. He had his feet up on the desk.
He laid back with feet up on the desk. We've got time. It'll be interesting to see what they do if they get out of reruns and it's like, okay, well, let's get back to doing shows now.
Is it like a football strike and that like people can cross the picket line and you can get scabs that come and write for these shows?
It's a great question, but do you want the scab writers to come
that
up
would
with
be
the
a
jokes?
funny bit. Like, okay, what's the worst joke of the night here? These are our backup writers.
Would be funny. You should do it.
Hey, we got a bit here, everybody. So you just get all the people on Twitter who are like, I don't know why these writers need to get paid so much. Anybody can write a TV show. And just let them submit jokes. And then you can just read those on air. They'll bomb. That'll be the point. 2 birds, 1 stone.
I actually have a buddy who is pretty funny on Twitter. And one of the producers of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver reached out to him. It was like, hey, can you put together a number of like jokes and everything? You know, we had you sent to us and everything. Can you put together like some bits and some jokes as a tryout to see if they would hire him to come in and be a writer just from Twitter?
Crazy.
Like just from Twitter. Didn't work out.
No.
You know, because it's not what he had done his whole life. He's just funny tweets on Twitter, things like that. But just randomness of like, hey, you know, we had somebody that, you know, we respect as, you know, sent you this. He's got tons and tons of followers for just being kind of funny on Twitter. Like nothing really special or famous. But yeah, so it could work out. I mean, that certainly could be the case. He randomly got a DM.
I love hearing the stories of all these, you know, comedians on these shows and whatever, how they get started. David Spade was telling one story the other day. It was him and Rob Schneider auditioned for SNL at the same time. And the voice of SpongeBob, I can't remember his name, but he's a funny dude apparently. So they all three got 20 minutes. David Spade bombed so bad he walked off after 12. Same with Rob. Rob, I guess, had a funny set, but he didn't deliver. He just walked off after 12 minutes. The SpongeBob guy killed it.
Really?
Spade and Schneider got hired.
Interesting. And that guy went to SpongeBob.
Yes.
That guy became friends with Squidward.
Pretty much.
You know,
he probably made
more. Just as much money as those guys in syndication. Because SpongeBob's going to be syndicated more than SNL.
I bet,
80s.
Tom Kenny. I bet he's doing just fine.
Yeah, what's his net worth, Tom Kenny?
I bet it's pretty good. I'll look it up. I was going to see if I can find anything about this.
Because those websites are very reliable.
Yeah, super reliable.
As we talked about the other day, where it was, who was it we were talking about that the random website had like some crazy number of like 50,000 touchdowns in one season, something like that. Like, no, that's not that did not happen. It was like sports ball he plays, and it was just like AI words put together for somebody's net worth. Yeah, that is like the Saturday Night when it first started. Like Chevy Chase was the host every night.
Yeah,
like he came up and did the stand up every week. It was every Saturday was Chevy Chase.
So many of those guys were the National Lampoon's guys because they had the magazine and everything. Then they started a radio show.
It's weird how, like, you know, that next season when he got into the contract dispute and quit in the middle of the season, like, what's Chevy Chase's career if he stays? You know, if he doesn't then quit and say, well, I'm going to go do movies, right? No, I'll stay here and continue on SNL. He's probably still Chevy Chase, right? He's probably still Fletch and Clark Griswold. But just some of those things to where how he gets in a contract dispute because he wants more money because he's on the cover of all these magazines. He's Saturday Night Live. It's not Saturday Night Live as all these different people. It's Chevy Chase and this huge show that's blowing up. But it hadn't become mainstream culture yet. It eventually, obviously, did with all the comedians getting their start there.
2 celebrity net worth websites have Tom Kenny's net worth at $16 million with absolutely no specifics to back it up.
But they both have sort of around the same?
They both have exactly 16. Oh, this one says, I love how this has a little more authority to it. $16.32 million.
That one's probably it.
How would they know that? That's like a log into your bank account at that point, right?
I mean, it's his house and cars, basically, right?
Here we've got
houses and cars.
This lists a $2.72 million per year salary.
Not bad.
Presumably while making SpongeBob.
Sure.
Again,
I'd take it.
I have no link to that.
Yeah. Is there an Arif Hassan consensus big board net worth?
Yeah, he's actually undervalued.
All the different net worths from all these different websites, you put them together and figure out what his average net worth is.
That show's
going
to be in syndication for 50 more years.
Yeah, I'm going to say that he was a steal.
Yeah, absolutely. They did not reach.
He's going to be making money off that until he dies.
What's David Spade worth?
Generations before that. I didn't know that until, unfortunately, when she passed away, that David Spade was Kate Spade's brother-in-law. The purse lady
I
didn't
know that either.
She's from Kansas City. Went to St. Teresa's. Died several years ago, and that's his sister-in-law.
The same untrustworthy websites say David Spade net worth around $70 million.
Wow. Yeah, well, that's still a little bit better than Tom Kenny.
He's in on the production side of all that stuff now with that Sandler group.
I read the Chris Farley book, and I didn't realize that he and Farley didn't get along.
I didn't know
that they hated each other.
I'm sorry to interrupt. What's going to be a good story, but Adam Sandler, $440 million.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That guy prints money.
Absolutely. Yes, it was mainly Spade that didn't like Farley, but they didn't get along. Spade did not like Chris Farley, so just interesting. Some of the career path of Chris Farley on like what he could have been, if it wasn't for like Black Sheep was not going to get made. That Chris Farley wanted a different movie, and I can't remember what movie it was, but it was much bigger than Black Sheep. And because he had already signed the contract with the studio, and the studio said, we want David Spade as well. You two have to be together.
Had they already done Tommy Boy?
They had already done Tommy Boy. They said, if David Spade chooses not to do it, then we'll let you out of this contract, and you can do this other movie. And I can't remember which one it was. And out of spite, David Spade said, yeah, I'll do the movie. Because he knew that Chris Farley did not want to do the movie. That's why Black Sheep got made, is because David Spade was like, bleep you. And apparently it was
Those
over
are very similar movies, too.
Apparently it was over a female. The girl in Tommy Boy that was in the swimming pool, that's a pretty girl down there.
Really?
David Spade had a huge crush on her, was trying to date her. Chris Farley's girlfriend for like 4 months. Chris Farley swooped in, and she started dating Chris Farley over David Spade, and that was like the falling out between these two friends.
For the Yankees.
And they've, I don't know, probably made. Who's your favorite little rascal? Is it Alfalfa or is it Spanky Sinner?
I'll sign with Chris Farley on that because like 90% of the stuff he's done is hilarious.
Yeah.
About 10% of the stuff David Spade's done.
I'm
Joe
with
Dirt is classic, but
yeah.
I mean, he was never one of my favorites on SNL. There was only a few things.
I got to find out what the movie was that he wanted to do instead of Black Sheep. That David Spade was like, no, let's do Black Sheep because also I'm going to get payday. You know, and twofold, and you don't get your way. So let's go ahead and.
He was more interested in the script for The Cable Guy. Does that sound right?
Wow.
I think he was going to be the Cable Guy instead of Jim Carrey. He was also Shrek.
I do remember that. Yes, I've heard that.
He was Shrek before Michael Myers.
This is from the IMDb facts page for Black Sheep. It says Chris Farley was not excited to do this film. He was more interested. Just tell me if this makes sense. If this is the story you're telling, also he was more interested in the script for The Cable Guy. Paramount really wanted David Spade in this film, but since David wasn't under contract, he could pass on the Black Sheep script. Before production, Chris, who read the script at this point, met up with David and told him that he quote wasn't crazy about it, giving David subtle hints to basically turn down Black Sheep so he could go make The Cable Guy.
Yeah.
David then made an agreement with Chris that he'll read the script and make the decision based solely on whether he thought it's good or not. David liked the script, so Chris had to do the film, though his Cable Guy deal had fallen apart anyway, it says.
He did not like the script.
There you go.
That script came together. There's also stories about Black Sheep to where like they were writing the movie like the day before they would shoot the scene.
Oh, wow. Goodness.
Like that's how crazy and hastily that movie came together. So it's a really fascinating book with all the different ins and outs. This isn't a spoiler alert because we know about Chris Farley's life, but Farley was very religious, grew up in a very religious household, and his pastor, the father, had come to not his father, but the father of the church had come to visit him in New York, and Chris Farley had a driver, like his specific driver around New York. He sent him to go pick up this priest from the airport. He didn't know he was a man of faith. He picks him up, and on the way to dropping him off at Chris's house, he's telling him all the stories of Chris Farley and what happens in the car and what they're doing and what he did last night and the girls that were here and everything. I had no idea that this guy was coming in town to visit Chris Farley. It was like, and I can imagine the stories of what was going on in the backseat of a car when Chris Farley was going around town.
That's why I don't have a driver.
Yeah, you don't want that stuff getting out, you know?
Or a priest.
Either one. Or Chris Farley's nightlife.
Well, I mean, I didn't say that.
Yeah, you left that one out.
That's a good point. Speaking of nightlife, are you seeing Aaron Rodgers making his way around New York?
No. What?
He's been
captivated by a couple other stories today locally.
Yeah, he's been to a Rangers game, and then last night he was courtside at the Knicks. He's ingratiating himself with the fan. He was sitting next to Sauce Gardner and Turtle from Entourage
Nice.
at the Knicks game last night.
Well, he's gone from like the NFL sticks, right, to the NFL penthouse.
But he
from
was
Green Bay to New York.
He was like, I'm a Bucks fan. You know, let me root for the Mill. Oh, Bucks are. They're winning a championship. Oh, I'm a Bucks fan. Now he's like, go Knicks, Knickerbockers. Let's do it. Oh, come on, Spike Lee. Hey, high five, Spike. Let's see. Jalen Brunson loved you at Villanova. Huge fan, Jalen.
All I know is that Rob Lowe and Rob Pelinka were at the same game last night.
Yeah.
So awesome.
I know that one of them was at the game twice, is all I could tell.
There was
two separate shots. Did they ever get them on simultaneously?
Pictures next to each other.
Okay, yeah.
It's the most Rob Pelinka has not looked like Rob Lowe, because I always see
point.
Rob Pelinka like at the I always see him in the NBA Summer League. They always interview him. I'm like, that is Rob Lowe.
So
but
true.
then seeing him next to each other, I'm like, okay, I see a few subtle differences.
It's just the presence of stress in Rob Pelinka's
Yes,
life. That's
true,
it.
Yes.
And Rob Lowe, none.
Zero.
None.
No, none.
That man sleeps on a cloud, right? A very expensive
stress.
cloud.
None stress. It's like if you ever put Bob Glauber and Tom Crean in the same room, you'd be
Right.
like, okay, they don't
Wow.
look as alike as we think, but
That's a
separate.
good one, though.
Like, oh my
Well,
God, is
Seren brings that up all the time.
I don't listen.
Tom Crean with the New York Daily News? Is Bob Glauber just roaming the sideline at Indiana? What's that all about? That's weird. Hey, aren't you the Georgia? Oh, you're out of basketball. Okay. Well, you know what? You went to a Final Four. Excuse me. Dwayne Wade took you to a Final Four. You didn't show up when you got there, but you certainly were invited.
CelebrityNetworth.com. Rob Lowe, $100 million.
Yeah, that's kind of a cloud to sleep on if that's the case. So, 913-912-4810 as really we got into all of the big stuff that we wanted to talk about in that opening segment.
I
We were
just
talking
started
about-
off with like, hey, you should do like a nighttime TV talk show set, and here we are.
CelebrityNetworth.com. Rob Pelinka, $25 million.
I'll take the lowest amount on this
Either?
celebrity site.
Yeah, I'm good with SpongeBob right now. $2.7 million a year. I'm good with that.
Let me see if I can find the lowest celebrity net. Who might have a negative net worth in the world of celebrity?
Well, hold on.
That's true.
So
I
you-
probably don't want the lowest.
So you've got last night the three people that were together at the Knicks game, Rodgers, Sauce, and Turtle. What's Turtle's net worth?
What's
We'll
his
find out.
actual name?
Turtle.
No, it's
We'll find out next.
Mick Schaefer in the Zone is brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon, home of the 2-story biscuit sandwiches from Denver Biscuit Company.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Did we ever figure out what Josina Anderson was talking about with Frank Clark?
I haven't seen anything else yet.
Okay.
I'm going to say he's on his way back to Kansas City. I don't know. That's not an actual prediction.
No, but
I'm guessing that's her checking on the markets. Maybe, like you said, maybe he hasn't texted her back lately. I don't know.
Yeah, she tweeted at Frank Clark or at the real Frank C _ which is what just expected. But didn't just tweet at him. Tweeted with the dot.
Yes.
And then so everybody can see it. Says comma hello exclamation point LOL. Hello.
What do you think it means?
LOL. What are you
Read
taking from that?
between the lines.
She's saying, hello, nice job getting that contract from the insert team here. Hello, why are you not answering my text? Now I've got to actually reach out publicly.
So as somebody who escorted Josina Anderson down the concourse at Super Bowl 54 for upwards of 15 minutes, I got to know her very well.
Sounds like it.
And I can
Close
tell you
friends.
that means that she needs escorted down a concourse probably.
Okay.
She's got her knee banged up again.
Oh, no.
And she's waiting for somebody, and Frank told her that he would, and he's not there.
I'm going to meet you there at, I don't know what time
It's the only...
Now we have to find out what time she sent this.
It's the only reason,
this
really.
tweet. So she sent this tweet at 11:39.
Yeah, she's been stuck upstairs.
I'm going to meet you there at 11:30, and I'll help you.
Yeah.
Hello, it's 11:30. I told you I had to be there at noon. I need help.
I don't know
down
why
the
she's at the
stairs.
Super Bowl stadium in May, but
I need help down the stairs. So I talked yesterday about.
Weirdly, she's in Tampa too.
Oh, she plays the Tampa too. Very good. So it's a specific cornerback and safety to be able to do that. We talked. I talked yesterday about. I like Howie Roseman. I think he's a really good GM. I think there's a little inflation on people going out of the way to say that Howie Roseman is like the draft board is like he's the chosen one. He's Neo in the draft board. That I've heard chestnut checkers with Howie Roseman about 30 times since Thursday night. And the way that I described it, Mick, was when he took Nolan Smith at 30, it's a man sitting on a park bench, and there's a big basket next to him filled with pillows. And a baby falls from a tree and lands in that basket perfectly fine, not a scratch on him. And people go, "You're a hero! You're a hero! You saved that baby's life! The hero! Look at everybody! Look at the hero! Yeah, that's right. Just doing what I can. Just doing what I can. Like, well, yeah, the baby sort of fell into your basket. Nolan Smith, you didn't. It would be chestnut checkers if he traded up to like 20 and got like a second rounder and then traded back to 24, and got something. It's like, wow. And then he got Nolan Smith. This guy is working the board and playing chestnut checkers. He sat at 30 and Nolan Smith fell in his lap. He's a good GM. They were in the Super Bowl. It's a fantastic roster. Fantastic roster. It is not to take anything away from Howie Roseman. It's just a little bit of the over the top of Howie Roseman just understands how to draft. Because he took the guy that everybody was questioning, how in the hell he's there at 25, 26, 27, 28.
Another guy too, right? And Jalen Carter that fell.
Yeah, he traded up one, so he played the draft board.
They moved up one there.
From 10 to 9, chestnut checkers.
In fairness, Dave Gettleman would have dumped out all the pillows and been like, "Here we go! I got a basket! I found a basket!
I found a basket with a baby in it." Yeah, that would be odd. I have a child.
Jerry Jones would have been like, "I don't need no basket. Come here, kid."
You is a Dallas Cowboy. You is going to make a lot of money, son. You is a Dallas Cowboy. I'll tell you what, I just tickled to death that you are on the Dallas Cowboys right now.
What would Brett Veach have done? Would he have still caught the baby with pillows, but he would have brought in 100 more pillows, way more pillows than he needed to catch that baby, a lot more baskets of pillows. We're like, okay, we got the good, but I mean, you didn't need these other 99 baskets of pillows.
He had 4 baskets to his left in case other people fell out of the tree, but he grabbed those and put them over next to where the basket was that the child had already fallen into. And just in case. It's like, well, now there's a child over there falling on the ground. It's like, what happened to that basket? I really wanted to save this child.
He's putting all his children into one basket.
I think Brett Veach was like, hold on, kid. And then he ran to like a high-end pillow store and paid like a little more than you need to for pillows, but then came back and caught the baby and everything was fine. But it's like, you probably could have just used the pillows that were there, Brett.
You know what? I want to be aggressive in protecting this child. It's a weird analogy and metaphor or whatever comparison we're making here, whatever you want to call it. But it is the only way that I think of NFL draft.
Baby catching.
Baby catching in baskets. That's what it is.
Every pillow is sponsored by Oakley and Adidas and Hy-Vee.
Coors Light. Baby fell into the Coors Light basket. That seems like it would be awfully tough. No, it was the pillows with Coors Light pillowcases on them. So it's not a big deal. You can sleep and think about Coors Lights. Patrick's dream. Maybe his dream. He'll be smashing Coors Lights in the match when they lose to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, Steph's better than Patrick and probably by a good margin. So Travis is going to have to be a lot better than Klay, and I don't know if Klay's a 15. I don't know if he can do that even if, like, Travis is a 10, which I don't think he is.
Travis will have...
But, I mean, it's one event. It's one off, and right, yeah. And I forget, do they...
It'd be entertaining.
They switched up each hole, or like every 9 holes, one thing, and
I think they're playing 12. I saw.
Well, they're playing 12 holes, but I think it might be best ball or rotating
shot, and so you can make up for some gaps in game with that.
But on those holes where you're using Steph's shot every time, as opposed to using Patrick's or Travis's, they're going to be in decent shape.
That was the best I had seen. Patrick golf was last year.
Agreed.
In all this stuff, and maybe he had gotten to that level, but that was the best I'd seen him play. I just want to go. I've already texted my buddies. Let's go. We're going.
Nice, good for you.
Maybe I go on 8-10's dime or
sure.
Run that up the flagpole.
Absolutely, yeah. I see no problem with that.
Good.
This is as high up the flagpole as it's going to get.
Yeah.
How high are we on the flagpole?
Pretty high. If there's a flagpole that goes to the Empire State Building. So the Sears Building, Sears Tower, we're about
Sears Tower. What year is this?
We're about.
It's not the Sears Tower anymore.
It's Willis, and I think it's actually changed since Willis.
Liberty Memorial. We're at roughly the first stair.
We're at Sandstone right now.
we are actually at Union Station, getting off a train.
It is still the Willis Tower. Apparently.
There you go, Willis. What you talking about, Willis? What you talking about? So. The views and the grades that are out there, I know that people don't like the grades of drafts. I do find it funny that last year when the Chiefs got an A+, grades were fine. The Chiefs are like, Chiefs nailed the draft, the best draft. Chiefs are getting A+, A+. You know, Chiefs have an awesome draft. Look at all these A+. I think the Chiefs got to see, who cares about draft grades? I mean, are they really worthwhile? It doesn't matter what they end up being. But the reason I actually will listen a little bit more to draft grades is because we spend like 3 months consuming what different people think of prospects and how they're ranking them and what they think the fit is for different teams and how good they think these players are. And we give them some sort of credibility because we're listening to them and saying, well, this guy's got him going to, he's got the Chiefs taking this person, and I've heard this about them. And, people getting mad and screaming, expletives at Brett Veach when Zay Flowers goes, when I'm assuming that guy didn't watch Boston College games to see Zay Flowers as a wide receiver to think, I want this guy on my team. And then those same people say, well, here's where I think the fits were. Here's where I think guys could have gone before it. This is why I'm going to give this team a C. That guy's an idiot. Who cares? It doesn't even matter. Well, then why'd you spend 3 months listening to him about where he thought prospects should go and how good they were and everything? So I think there is a little bit of that there is some credibility to it. But we did an exercise earlier, Mick, to where we sort of changed the names and where the big boards were for these different players to see, did the Chiefs actually have a better draft or was it a perceived better draft?
Do you guys know there are 18 Sears locations left?
Oh, cool.
One of them's here in OP.
Good for you. Go check that out.
I think on Metcalf.
We went through the consensus big board, and we eliminated all the names, just all the names that were drafted before the Chiefs, 1 through 20, 1 through 30. And when the Chiefs on the board, we looked at which players on the big consensus, 100 different analysts consensus big board, who's on the board and you can select for the Chiefs at that point. Joey Porter Jr. is the 12th overall ranked player. Brian Branch, safety from Alabama, one of your favorite players now, is the 16th overall player. And Michael Mayer.
According to who?
This is Arif Hassan has his consensus big board. There's like 70, 80 different analysts that he uses all over the country. Yeah. They have to have a big board within the last week. He continually updates it. And so this was the final one right before the draft. Michael Mayer is the 19th rated player consensus. And after that, like, there's a gap. So I wrote those 3 guys down. If we're looking at big board and drafting and not reaching and maybe getting steals, Joey Porter Jr., Brian Branch, or Michael Mayer. If you're selecting for the Chiefs, who are you taking at 31? Those are your 3 guys, because we're going by big board. We're not gonna go Felix at pick number 46, because that would be a reach at number 31. We're going big board. We're going, let's get an A. Joey Porter Jr., cornerback, Brian Branch, safety, or Michael Mayer, the tight end, who the Raiders apparently were trying to trade up to get.
I mean,
at number 31.
What corner is the premium position of those 3, right? But you spent a lot of inventory on it last year.
Yeah.
I would maybe say tight end and Michael Mayer.
I went Michael Mayer, too. Yeah. Josh went Joey Porter Jr.
Oh. Basically, off your logic, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if it depends on if they want to pay Snead or not.
He went Devin A. Chain.
Yeah.
It's like, I just
but, I mean,
feel it.
Time for a third running back.
And the 4th choice there would be, okay, bye-bye out of the round.
If you could.
Sure.
Yes.
If you weren't holding the draft in Kansas City.
Absolutely, yes. If you didn't already have Lombardi trophies up there on the stage and Clark Hunt going, I didn't come all the way to you.
Listen, I got here. Okay,
I'm not at the war room there with you guys because I'm down here to announce the pick. Not Friday announce the pick. Tonight announce the pick, okay? And I'm going to scream it in the microphone. We're going to have a lot of fun here. So I took Mayer. You took Mayer. He took Joey Porter Jr. So that brings us then to the second round. As we tick through the second round, and at pick 55, I'm not going to go through, well, Chiefs picked 63, but they traded up to 55, whatever.
I have a question.
Yep.
Where did FAU rank on the guys remaining?
He was number 46.
Overall. Of the guys left, though, so he was probably
so it
15th
would be
or something like that.
Yeah, he'd be like 8th or 9th down the list. Do you go to? Now, Josh brought up and said, well, if I'm actually sitting here and saying, what do I want? If I can only choose between those 3, I'll take Joey Porter Jr. But his answer was, I'd probably take FAU, even if those players were still available, and FAU was sitting at number 46. Okay, well, the Chiefs clearly thought the same thing. Okay, so they took FAU. So we go into the second round and pick 55. FAU's off the board because I think at 55 he would be gone at that point. So there are 6 players that are all within the 30 to 40 range that are all there.
They're
available.
still there at 55 or 63?
So pick 55 for the Chiefs. From 30 to 42.
I like this game.
There are
It's a fun
7
game.
players.
Well, and he wrote the rules and came up with all the info.
All we have to do is
Just
play it.
keep-
It's great.
Yeah, exactly.
From 30 to 42, there are 7 players available. From 30 to 42. That's a lot of players in that pocket. After that, there's a drop off. So this is the pocket that
guessing Rice was not in there in that pocket.
Rashee Rice was not in that pocket. In fact, Rashee Rice was number 76. Yeah, he was the 76 overall player. So here are the 7 players in the second round that you can choose between. Remember, you took tight end. He took cornerback. I took tight end. Osiris Torrance, guard. Darnell Washington, tight end. Josh Downs, wide receiver. Keely Ringo, cornerback. John Michael Schmitz, center. Or DeJuan Jones, offensive tackle.
Probably go another tight end.
You're going Darnell Washington?
Just tight ended up. I love that.
Where would you go?
Jalen Hyatt also we added after
Yeah,
the
Jalen
fact,
Hyatt.
right?
Yep, we added Jalen Hyatt.
So there are 2 receivers on that list.
So Josh Downs,
and
Jalen
no
Hyatt.
tackles.
1 tackle, DeJuan Jones.
And he was in the conversation at 31, but didn't go until 1, 10, or 11.
Yeah,
Right, but he was the number 40 overall consensus. We're
he
going
was
by
40,
big boards
right.
and getting A's and A pluses. Any of these would be a steal.
Who am I taking out of those guys?
Out of those guys, you took tight end in the first round.
I might go Hyatt. What, Hyatt's in there?
Yep, Jalen Hyatt. So you went tight end.
And look, part of that has to do
And
with like,
Hyatt.
I've heard of him the most.
Yep. Which is kind of what the consensus
Yes,
big board is.
right,
Like,
that's right.
not to people put a ton of work into getting this together, but
Josh went Hyatt as
went
well.
Hyatt.
I went DeJuan Jones, offensive tackle, because I wanted.
I
to
went
protect
Hyatt,
Patrick.
he went Lowett. That was a
I'm
Jason
just trying to
joke,
keep
just
up
for
with the
Jason.
Joneses. Damn it. Now we get to the third round. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 players available in this specific pocket in the third round at pick 92. Okay, I'm not going to go 95. We can go 95. It's the same thing. So 95 or 92. Here are the players available. Now you took tight end and wide receiver. Josh took cornerback and wide receiver. I took tight end and tackle. The players available. Oddly enough, Keely Ringo still sitting there in the third round. He's still the 38th overall player. Keely Ringo, cornerback. Adi Tamiwa.
Adebawore, that's my pick.
Adebawore, edge/defensive tackle. Antonio Johnson, safety. Clark Phillips, cornerback. Jordan Battle, safety. You go.
Adebawore, because, I mean, Well, I guess I'm missing one of the three positions I wanted them to go get.
Your tight end, wide
Tight end,
receiver, and defensive tackle,
minus,
edge.
minus O tackle.
We'll call it defensive line. He went Adebawore. I went Adebawore. All three of us now have the same picks in the third round, which makes it a little easier. So
I almost thought by the time we got to the draft that
it was like
Felix and Adebawore were almost coin flips. They were almost kind of right.
Talking about people were saying maybe moving up into the first round for Adebawore.
And his agent thought that too. They held a draft party Thursday night.
And then
Friday.
He
went Saturday.
Yeah, that was disappointing. But a steal according to all of the big boards, and an A+ on the draft pick because of that.
And he's going Colts? Where is he going?
He is going to...
Brents went to the Colts, right?
Julius Brents with the Colts.
How crazy is it that all four K-State guys went to their hometown teams?
That is pretty amazing, actually. Where did Adebawore...
It is the Colts.
He went to the Colts. He went to the Colts.
Am I right about Brents?
Yeah, Brents went to the Colts.
Okay,
he's
from Indy.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And Hayes went to Tampa, and he's from Lakeland, Florida.
Right the farthest guy away was Deuce, who went to school in Round Rock, which is like 180 miles away. But his dad works for the Cowboys.
The Cowboys. You is a Dallas Cowboy. So
your daddy.
What we then choose between, and this exercise was to look at if the Chiefs took those picks, it'd be A's across the board because. Wow, they got great value. DeJuan Jones was the 40th best player. They got him at 92. Jalen Hyatt, they got him at 55, and this guy was the 42nd player on the big board.
Where did Hyatt end up going?
Third round.
Yeah. It's after that.
So now I look at it and go, Chiefs took FAU, Rashee Rice, and Wanya Morris. Would you rather have your draft pick of Adetomiwa Adebawore, Jalen Hyatt, and Michael Mayer, or Felix, Wanya Morris, and Rashee Rice?
I will answer that in 3 years.
Exactly.
Why are we spending time? We should be talking about the 2020 draft right now, right?
Yeah,
shouldn't we do that?
You're not wrong.
Yeah,
you're not wrong.
Yeah, I've got some easy ones for you.
Yes. Who would you take in the first? Who wouldn't you take in the first round there, Josh?
I just wouldn't want to reach on Willie Gay. I think I'd get him in the second.
I agree with that. You got to hold your water. Don't trade up for Willie Gay, even though they wanted to.
Well, this L'Jarius Sneed fella, you just wait.
2020, you guys probably crunched the numbers. I think there were.
No.
Do you think there are more guys declined fifth-year option or picked up from that
I think
class?
more were declined.
I think
probably,
more were declined.
14 were declined.
Dang it.
Nope, 13 were picked up. 5 guys didn't factor in.
Oh.
Well, one is Okuda, who got traded. So I guess that fifth year is not a thing.
I think if your team has picked it up, that travels with you. But if you get traded before the decision's made,
Kadarius Toney.
There are 3 guys who are not in the league anymore. Was Toney?
Was Toney 20 or 21?
He wasn't 20, I don't think.
No,
he was not 20.
But either way, the fifth-year option wouldn't.
There's
count
3 guys that aren't in the
Tony.
league anymore. One of those being Ruggs
and Gladney.
Well, he's not. And then there's Gladney who passed away.
He's not on this earth anymore. So yeah, Ruggs and Gladney, and that's a good point.
But still, and the other first-round pick, Damon Arnett.
Who was with the Chiefs for a minute.
Yep.
Yeah, for
what arrest?
It was about a minute.
Was it the 19th pick? It was like
Isaiah
Morris
Wilson, 29.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Lineman.
He's just not in the league.
You know,
anymore.
I can't remember. He had a whole. I think he's on a different team.
So there are 27 guys eligible to be declined or picked up, and it was 14 to 13. It was close.
Yeah.
Simmons, Cardinals. I didn't know things were going that bad.
Yeah, they announced that.
Patrick Queen and Baltimore,
which is kind of what we were.
Isaiah Wilson was the guy. He was suspended immediately, and then eventually got traded for the draft pick that turned into Skylar Thompson. By the way,
how about that?
And then moved around again. Yeah.
So here's why I did the exercise.
So I'm sorry. You say it was 14 did have their options picked up.
14 did not.
13
did.
13 did. And okay, so 13 did have them picked up.
There were more that were declined than picked up.
So here's why I did the exercise is if we're looking at it and people are paying attention or not liking draft grades, things like that, a lot of it is based on here's where my big board was, here's where this guy went, here's the value there. So if you look at the consensus big board, the Chiefs' first 3 picks, it added up to a minus 72. So they took players a total of 72 spots higher than where the big board had them at. Minus 72. For Felix, Rashee Rice, and Wanya Morris.
And they all traded. They traded up to get all. And
I took Michael Mayer.
2 of the 3, and then they traded up to get Connor.
I took Michael Mayer DeJuan Jones, and Adetomiwa Adebawore. I prefer the 3 that the Chiefs ended up with.
And you would have been plus what?
Plus 56.
So it's 120-some swing.
128 spot swing. It would have been A-pluses across the board.
If the Chiefs would just reveal their draft board, we could then grade how they did.
But is that like, is Michael Mayer, DeJuan Jones, and Adetomiwa Adebawore that much better than Felix, Rashee Rice, and Wanya Morris? 128 spots in the first 3 rounds better than what those were. And that's sort of my point of the whole thing, in that I'd actually take the draft that the Chiefs had, even looking at best player available right there. Well, Joey Porter Jr., if you're just simply going on best player available, would have been the pick. But I feel pretty good at cornerback. I need a weapon.
Yeah.
I need another weapon. If it's Mayer, if it's a wide receiver, I'll take another weapon. Addison's not there. Zay Flowers isn't there. I can't pick one of those guys. So I'll go that route. And then DeJuan Jones being there in the second round, I feel like, wow, what a steal. I get DeJuan Jones at 55, and he's the 40th best player in the draft. My goodness.
I want to say Mitchell Schwartz had a tweet about this.
Yeah, he had a thread.
Basically talking about, like, here's how to be called a GM guru.
Well, yeah.
Trade down and then take the highest available guy on Mel Kiper's big board.
Exactly. And even in that exercise.
All GMs have to do these days to get draft acclaim is trade down and draft the top guy on the consensus board at their pick. Draft analysis is getting boring and trite. Everyone has the same talking points about the positions you can't draft first round, trading up, etc. And a lot more tweets after that.
Yeah. And you guys would have ended up with like a plus 60.
Yeah.
Plus 65 in the spots.
I would have been even better because I wouldn't have traded up from 63. Take that, Brett Veach. What have you won?
Yeah, but those rules don't count here in this game that I completely made up.
I played to the rules of your game, and now I'm saying if we're really going to count my score, I would have moved back every single pick.
Well, I'm going to play a different game, and the Chiefs got Zay Flowers at 31 and Jordan Addison at 63.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe Paris Johnson was there in the third, but you got to take him.
What are the odds of that?
Will Anderson's there at 31. I didn't know it's a linebacker.
Yeah. How do you pass on that guy?
Made me sick they took Bijan in the 6th, but I mean, whatever. Nobody's perfect.
Well, if you've got Patrick Mahomes, so you have margin for error there. Maybe you have 128 pick margin for error. Somebody online was coming at like one of the draft analyzers, and they're like, more teams just need to do what the Chiefs do. Like, you mean draft Patrick Mahomes?
Yes. Yes. Exactly right.
Yes. Yeah. That would be
by
great.
the way, if you're wondering with the Eagles, that got the A+, the first round pick, Jalen Carter, got a +6 because he was the third. They took him 9. Nolan Smith +12. He was 18. They took him 30. Tyler Steen, they picked him at 65. His rank was 94, -29. They actually ended up with their first 3 picks -11.
Well, and they're saving
for an A+.
millions of dollars in that Eagles scouting department by just traveling to Athens.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Sending everybody to Athens.
I like how people had capital E, capital A, lowercase u, capital G, lowercase a, LES. That's kind of what they are. The Philadelphia Bulldogs.
Mick Schaefer's brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon. As seen on Food Network, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and Man vs. Food.
Less app today.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Briscoe, Drake, Mick Schaefer. We are here in the zone until 2 o'clock.
Thanks.
Want to see? Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah, that's all. What do you got there? What do you got there, Mick?
Mick's got a cookie now.
Got
a little biscuit?
It's a cookie with some some honey, some marmalade spread.
Oh, yeah.
Between them. What is it?
What is?
Yes, it was Wendy's.
It's not.
No.
I believe so anyway.
Oh.
It was just food this time. It wasn't like paperwork.
What's the let's get a review here. A little Mick Schaefer ASMR.
Would you claim that?
Crunch that cookie.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Really good.
It looks like a biscuit from England.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You're supposed to dip it.
Like
you
it's
know?
on Ted Lasso.
Yeah, this is like Ted Lasso thing.
Looks very dry. Well, you're supposed to actually dip it in like coffee or tea. Nope, still can't get down with that tea.
Me neither.
Can't do it. I haven't seen a lineup for the Royals yet. We will. You actually look like.
What are you looking for, by the way, in that lineup?
Michael Garcia.
A hit.
He was in it last night.
That's it. That's all. But that's all I'm looking for.
He'll be in it. He got a hit last night.
They're fine. Offense is fixed.
Oh, you better be in it.
Well, I mean, you want him at third base.
Yeah, that's what I'm watching.
Yeah,
that's what I'm watching to see if they bring up Michael Garcia and he ends up being Dozier at third and Garcia mixed in versus Garcia's now at third. You brought him up. And you can mix in Dozier. So if Bobby Witt needs a day off, Garcia can play short, Dozier can play third. Garcia get him a day off, Dozier can play third. You mix them in from time to time.
It'll be the first one, I bet.
Yeah, and that's the issue.
He'll be really
and that's where I'll be annoyed by it, along with being annoyed that Ryan Yarbrough apparently was left in last night to face 8 batters in a row to reach base without Matt Quatrero going. I kind of think he's cooked right now. I don't know. Sweeney, what do you think? You think he's probably done? I don't know. Let's give him 3 more batters. Well, he's walking, guys. He can't find the strike zone. He'll figure it out. I know him. It's all good. Well, it's 3-3 now. That's fine. We can score runs. No big deal. We don't need to bring anybody else out of the bullpen and get this guy out of there.
I hate how the Royals would get guys with sweet names like Hunter Dozier, right? And Nicky Lopez, just sweet names, right? I mean, just Bobby Witt, and they're not huge stars, but then they lose to guys named Ryan Mountcastle. Give me a break. That guy should not be athletic. Mountcastle.
Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah. Adley Rutschman. Seriously? Is he the best player, one of the best players in baseball, or somebody, one of my daughter's friends?
They actually sound like Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson sound like they should be playing lacrosse in the ACC. Did you play at Virginia? Yeah, I played at UVA. Thomas Jefferson in the house.
Mountcastle's
TJ.
It's a compound word. It's not a name.
This is a different weird name, but Santander sounds like someone failing to say Santana.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you've mispronounced Santana
horribly.
horribly.
You're saying Santander. Who talks like that?
Hey, what's going on with Carlos Santander?
What you think about that Carlos Santander fella?
Why is Larry the Cable Guy doing play-by-play?
I'm talking about they need to get more fundamentals. All right, more fundamentals, and that Santander fella.
Fundamentals.
Tired of that Santander.
You might be a 100-loss baseball team if you lose to a guy named Santander.
I'm big into names in baseball. We've talked about this. I can tell if a pitcher, I can tell by his name whether he belongs in the bullpen or not.
We did this game a million years ago. Ryan Yarbrough.
Bullpen.
I wonder if there's anything that we can reassign.
Hold before the fourth.
Can we?
Dugout at the top of the fourth.
Zach Greinke is a starter's name.
Josh Taylor?
Bullpen.
Bullpen guy. No doubt. Taylor Clark.
Bullpen.
Chris Bubich.
That is a starter's name. Especially the way he spells Chris. I'll have to admit that.
What about this? Jackson Coar.
That is a starter's name.
Starter's name for sure.
Yeah.
Here's one. We walked the line on this. Carlos Hernandez.
That's a really
interesting one.
It is.
I'm going to go bullpen. It's a pretty common name.
I feel it's more
very
bullpen
common.
than
it has enough syllables to be a starter for me.
And here's the deal: it can work out. Wade Davis is a very common name, and he deserved to be in the bullpen, and he was great. He was great with his common name.
Giordano Ventura.
That is a starter every day of the week, boys.
Great name.
Okay,
and then your nickname being Ace. I mean, it's
done for.
Fine. then you definitely are a starter. Just trying to think of
Max Scherzer, start me all day, baby.
That's right. That's right.
I gotta write that down.
Madison
now.
Bumgarner, though, kind of feel like this.
Oh, dude, that is.
I don't know.
Just start me up.
Madison Bumgarner feels like it's a bullpen
Rolling
guy.
Stones.
I don't know. I feel bullpen guy with Madison Bumgarner.
Really, he's got a starter's first name and a starter's last name.
I don't know. His last name starts with Bum.
I'm
More
going
bomb,
to position
really.
players so we can like recalibrate the game here. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know much about
Michael Massey. I mean, I'm just saying, if they're a pitcher, is this a starter or bullpen guy? I want to recalibrate this for people who are joining this game.
Is Michael Massey a starter
We're
or
moving.
a bullpen guy?
He's a pitcher now. Yeah. Where would you?
Oh yeah,
where
he's the bullpen.
Yeah, the bullpen coming by. But I started losing confidence because Madison Bumgarner sounded like bullpen, and you judged me very quickly for that. So I thought Michael Massey bullpen, but I just wanted to wait till you said it first.
First of all, the guy has 7 syllables in his name. That is gonna.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the longer the name, the more chance you're gonna be a starter.
That's why Hunter Dozier. Oh my goodness, you got a dude named Dozier.
That's a great name.
Starting.
He deserves to start.
Absolutely.
He should be better.
Maybe they actually should try that.
Maybe he was a first-round pick just because of his name.
They should.
Bob Witt, 7th inning.
Bob Witt, yes. Bobby Witt Jr. had a little spice to it. With
Bobby Witt Jr. probably setup man, close to closer, but setup man. Certainly not a starter.
Jackie Bradley Jr. though. Jackie Bradley is getting you 7 innings.
He might.
Okay. Yeah.
He might.
Well, I feel like we can just stay on the pitchers. We can stay with pitchers here.
Well, they already have their answers. I'm trying to give a fresh palette.
Okay. Yeah. Jackie Bradley Jr. is a great name.
Here's one. What about Josh Stallmont?
Bullpen.
Asa Lacy.
That is a starter all day.
Starter.
That's a starter.
Yeah.
Stallmont's close, but Josh just kind of really waters it down. It's a very plain name.
Yeah.
Right.
get it.
It's a soft. That's a soft name.
Joshua Stallmont.
You're getting there.
Might be getting there.
If you put
bullpen,
Esquire
though.
at the end, though,
Yeah, that's
Joshua
exactly.
Stallmont Esquire, you're in.
$200 million free agent is what that guy is. Absolutely. Asa Lacy is a definite starting pitcher, but he just might actually have the ability of Hunter Dozier as a starting pitcher. That's the worry.
Aroldis Chapman might have missed his calling.
That's a starter's name.
Starters
some
and
exceptions.
closers, though.
That's true.
share
Yeah,
a little bit.
yes.
Yeah, that is true. You got to be a pretty badass to be a closer, too. Mick Schaefer, bullpen.
Closer.
Totally.
You can keep your grass green and lush all year long with